Should I start? Honorable members, good evening. Good evening to the co-chairperson of this Joint Standing Committee, Honorable Ndlovu. All honorable members present, we extend warm and fraternal greetings to you all. The Secretary to Parliament and his delegation. Good evening. All of you are welcome. I see on the agenda we are going to have a presentation from the Auditor General. We want to take this opportunity and also officially welcome the Office of the Auditor General to this meeting. I can see here Ms. Sharon Adams, who will be the one who will be making presentations. I will also want to indicate or remind honorable members that we have a very busy and tight schedule tomorrow. What do you call it? Budget 3.0. Yeah, I see there are other honorable members who I serve with in the Standing Committee of Finance. And I'm going to request that the time that has been allocated for the meeting between now and 9:30, we can do better. So without any waste of time, I'm going to request honorable members that we move for the adoption of the agenda. And I see if there is any member who wants to suggest that we adopt the agenda. Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I move for the adoption.
Any seconder? Honorable Takude. Is there any opposing view to the adoption? Gone. The agenda is adopted. Let me check if we have received any apologies.
Good afternoon, Chair and the honorable members. Yes, we did receive apologies. We did receive an apology from Dr. Hansen, Ms. Clark, and Mr. Hade. These are the only apologies that have been registered that came to us. Thank you, Chair.
What are the reasons for the apologies?
They are not stated. Thank you.
Apologies without reasons are unacceptable. Okay, Honorable Khalid.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon to you and the co-chair and the colleagues. I'd like to apologize for the TG, Honorable Maudwe. She's attending the Magistrate Commission.
Okay. Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Chair. I just noted on the group, Honourable Hunsinger also posed these apologies there. Honourable Hunsinger, thanks.
Yes, what is the apology, Honourable Badenhorst? What is the reason for absence? What is the reason for absence in the meeting?
I don't know, it's the same group that you are on. I didn't see the reason. So I just noted it and I mentioned it to you. It's up to you to accept it or not. I'm not the chair.
We cannot accept apologies without reasons why members of parliament are not here. And this is we need to set a standard. We are the highest institution in the republic, the highest locus of politics in this country. And members of parliament are elected by ordinary people who do not have a voice. They pin their hopes on these leaders that they elect to carry their aspirations and at all material times to be manifestly seen doing their best to represent ordinary South Africans. It's not available for a meeting of a committee of parliament. There should be reasons adequate why such a member is not in the committee meeting. I mean, this is one of the most important committees. It's a committee which plays oversight on the administration of parliament. So we can't absent ourselves from such meetings without Sonere Verlof, Honorable Badenhorst. So those apologies are not accepted. Can we move to the next item? STP, we are going to hand over to you to introduce the AG's office.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm not sure if, I know it's a hybrid meeting, if my principal speaker and the chair are connected. Okay.
They are connected through you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Should I proceed, Chair?
You
Okay.
have been granted the rights.
Okay, no, thank you very much. The AG office, Chair, as you have indicated in your opening remarks, is led by Ms. Sharon. And I think the other colleague is Ms. Sangita, if I have not read incorrectly the delegation. I may not have seen who else, but they are the principal leaders of the delegation of AG team that audits parliament. Thank you very much.
Evening, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable Speaker. We will then present the audit outcomes of Parliament. Zini will then assist to present the presentation. I take the go ahead. I can go ahead, Chair, with the presentation if I'm correct.
Yes, you are welcome. You can go ahead. Good evening
Perfect.
to you and welcome.
Thank you so much. I've got Sangita Kellen with me and also Ashley Olker from the AG's office. But I will then continue. I hope the members also have a copy of the slides because I can't see the slides yet on the screen, but I will then continue from my side. So really a privilege for us to come and share the audit outcomes of Parliament. But Honourable Chair, what we also make use of the opportunity because we also have the privilege as AG to audit the entire government, and normally because Parliament also has an important oversight role over the legislature sector, there will also be specific information at a high level that we will be presenting in regard to the legislative sector. If I can go to immediately without further ado to the first slide, and this speaks about our vision and mission, and I think important for us, the work that we do, we want to make sure that we add value to the stakeholders in the work that we do. And important that the work that we do, at the center of it, we want to make sure the work that we do have an impact on the lives of citizens. And ultimately, there's three areas normally that we then focus on. The first part is in terms of the role that we've got from responsibilities for those institutions that we audit to make sure appropriate accountability, transparency happen in that perspective. Secondly, from an oversight perspective, that we come then with the right information for you then to be able to play your oversight role. And then lastly, as AGSA being a model organization. If we can move over to the next slide, and I think a critical important slide, because what this next slide brings together, it brings together the role plays in the accountability ecosystem. And I think what we are very resolute about, so as a institution, we went through a process to understand the role players in the system, and we are very clear each role player plays their part, the intended impact it will have on the impact on the lives of citizens. And as you will see, AGSA at the center of it, talking about the insights that we bring forward, and this insights we will be able to eliminate, to influence, and then also then we've got our enforcement power. But important to note that we also saying what are the key elements for any institution that will put them in good state. So we went on a culture shift journey, and we said what does good look like in terms of any institution, and there were 4 areas that we were looking at, from a performance, accountability, transparency, and then institutional integrity. And one of my favorite ones also is the one of institutional integrity, that speaks about that you need to conduct yourself in an ethical manner, that you need to put the organization's interests first and deal with any matters relating to conflict of interest. So I thought, let me highlight that one. If we can go back over to then the next slide that basically deals on a very high level, and why I wanted just to share this slide, because from an institution perspective, it was important for us, especially in the space of local government, where we went back to the drawing board and we asked ourselves, what is the 20% that could have an 80% impact? So there was specific work that we specifically did, where we specifically looked at the roles and responsibility of the municipal council, the mayor, and also then the municipal manager, but also more important from a legislature perspective and from a parliament perspective of all this important reports that get tabled from an oversight perspective. So based on the work that we've done, centered around these key important elements, I think when the AG will be tabling the general report in the next couple of weeks, I think some of the insights that we have found, she will basically bring to the fore, because the key thing that I think that this has unpacked for us to say, if oversight plays the appropriate role from an oversight mechanism in terms of all of these reports that is tabled, then the intended impact it will have in the local government space, and similar in the case of the legislature. So we thought, let's just share this information in terms of looking at the area of performance accountability, transparency, in this institutional integrity, and the important role that oversight plays in this regard. And I think 2 reports that we highlighted that specifically then comes from a parliamentary oversight, where the minister basically has to report on the performance of the entire key municipalities, and have to table that report within a specific period of time on a yearly basis, that speaks about important oversight that occurs from a local government perspective in that regard, and similar in the area of legislature. But I'm not going to go into the detail of the slide, but we also unpack in terms of various mandates, some roles and responsibility that's entrenched in the Constitution. The next slide I want to spend just a bit of time on is on the audit outcome of the legislature sector. So as you would notice, for the legislature sectors specifically, from 21-22 to 23-24, there has been significant improvements in the audit outcome. We've got only one legislator that is sitting in the space of unqualified with findings, and mainly due to the findings on the area of procurement and contract management. But we can indicate there has been considerable strides that's been made in the specific sector to deal with specific issues when it comes to the quality of the financial statements, the quality of the performance information, and the compliance to laws and regulations. I always say, when you have to play an oversight role and your own things are not driving clean governance, it makes oversight then on the other entities much more difficult, but indicating that over the years we have seen then significant improvements, specifically then in the sector. And specifically in the current year, where we've seen an improvement in Northwest legislature, where they improved from unqualified with findings then to a clean audit outcome for the year under review. But I think important that we just wanted to share the context of this. So the next slide, Honourable Chair, is the outcome of Parliament. So in the annual report, if members want to follow also on page 129 of the annual report, where the Auditor General's report is included in the annual report. So when we audit as an institution, there is specific areas that we focus on. The first one is the quality of the financial statements, making sure that whatever is disclosed in the financial statements of Parliament and in terms of the policies, that it's free from material misstatements. The second part that we do, we give a conclusion on the performance information, where we basically look in terms of the strategic plan, what is then reported quarterly, and then the annual report, and look at specific evidence to confirm for a specific program. The last area that we also look at is in the area of compliance to laws and regulations, where we look at key legislation and then compliance with these key legislation. Importantly, our audit report also includes, but not applicable, of the internal control deficiency. So if there was findings that we picked up, we would then give reasons what gave rise to this, and also in instances where we've issued material irregularities. So if we go to paragraph 2 of the audit report that speaks to the quality of the financial statements submitted, we indicate that there is no material misstatements that's been reported, that we've got an unqualified audit opinion for Parliament for the year under review. The second paragraph that I would like to highlight is paragraph 17 in our audit report, that speaks to the quality of the performance information. And in that paragraph specifically, we indicate there's no material findings that has been reported for the year under review. And the last paragraph that I would like to bring to your attention is paragraph 24, that speaks to the area of compliance to laws and regulations. And we've also indicated there was no material findings that was reported in that regard. The one that we've also included in our audit report that we've emphasized, so an emphasis of matter is where Parliament already have disclosed information in their own financial statements about the arrangement for the Parliament rebuild and the arrangement that they've got with the Development Bank of South Africa. So in note 35, they basically indicate what this arrangement is about. So what we're basically doing from our side as the auditors, we're emphasizing to say this is included in note 1. So if you want more information about the rebuild and what it constitutes and the contractual arrangement, you will find much more detail in note 35 of the disclosure note. So we thought that was important to highlight in terms of the audit report. So when we look at all the elements that we audit, this results then in Parliament receiving an unqualified audit report with no findings, which is basically a clean audit outcome. The next part that we want to highlight, so this is also disclosed in the financial statements of Parliament, and this relates to the irregular expenditure for the year under review. So noting also when we go to that specific note of the irregular expenditure, the amount that's disclosed for the current year is at 7.5 million, and this basically is irregular expenditure for the current year was 6.9 million that was disclosed, that results in that closing balance of the 7.9 billion. And in the note, it's also indicated the reasons why the irregular expenditure has been incurred in that regard. The other important matter that we thought important to highlight, taking into account the financial assessment of Parliament, and where we specifically looked at specific ratios and what this information is telling us. And I think overall, looking at the payments within the 30 days, there is no significant findings that we've reported for the year under review. And then we also basically highlight specific instances where there was a financial loss that was indicated based on a fraudulent bank account that was then disclosed. That's also disclosed in the financial statements. So important that we highlighted. Key for us, I think, from an overall cash management perspective and revenue management, there's nothing significant, but we always highlight the net liability positions of Parliament because of the members' gratuity and the long-term impact of that. So that's also adequate disclosed in the financial statements of Parliament for the year under review. So we thought important that we highlight that. The other key matter that we wanted to highlight, and I think important in the work that the portfolio committees are doing. So what we went back to look at in the prior years, specifically with the key focus that the work that we want to do is to make an impact on the lives of citizens. So we specifically looked, which is in the next slide, of specific service delivery areas that we can touch on, and also more to provide insight in the role and responsibilities that Parliament has from an oversight perspective. So there were specific committees that for the year under review that we have focused on, and it was the water and sanitation. If we can move to the next slide, Zini, that's fine. Mineral resource and energy on COPTA, the DPME, and then the Department of Health, and also basic education. So important for us, it was important for us to see in terms of the roles and the function of the committees, and was there anything that would be able to assist from an oversight perspective going forward. In the prior year, we did report some concerns when it comes to tracking of resolutions and how robust these resolutions are then followed up by the various committees. So we are indicating in certain cases that we have seen some improvements in terms of the tracking, but what the key thing that we want to emphasize is the portfolio committees has an important role to play, specifically when it comes to the service delivery aspects and when reviewing the annual performance plan. And what we find a lot of times, the timing of this was a challenge in order to then give the appropriate input in this regard. The second part that we've looked at just from a governance perspective is to say, when it comes to the terms of reference and the work plans of the committee, is there clear terms of reference in place? Is the work plans in place? And there was some instances where we've actually indicated from an oversight perspective that except for one province that we found that there was an approach impacts in the oversight role and responsibility that the committees have to play. Then the other item that we highlighted is the follow-up on the prior sector audit finding, and I think I've highlighted this part in terms of the tracking of the resolutions and what were some of the challenges that we indicate needs improvement in this regard going forward from an oversight perspective. Then we've also looked from an oversight perspective in terms of the house rule and the oversight model. And I think we are very clear that all of the provincial legislatures and Parliament do have an oversight model and a framework in place. And there is specific rules and processes in place to guide these processes appropriately. The other key focus that we were specifically looking at was on key infrastructure projects to say, is there proper mechanism in place and is there a working work plan when it comes to infrastructure projects? So we did notice that from the implementation plans, there has been various site visits by the various committee looking at specific status of the projects, the unfinished project, and these reports was then reported then to the House in this regard. But we thought let's just share this information high level because it's important insights that was brought to the fore in this regard. The next slide, so I'm nearly at the end of my presentation, Honourable Chairperson. The next slide just deals with the recommendations that we gave in the 2022-23 financial year and what of those recommendations has been implemented and what of the recommendations is still in progress. So there is recommendation in terms of the overall financial management and maintaining then the clean audit outcome that we indicate has been implemented for the year under review. Then we also just highlight in terms of the implementation of the rebuild project that there needs to be continuous oversight on that. And then the other one we're highlighting in terms of the portfolio committee and the role that they've got to play in terms of support, the supporting function and the operational needs of the portfolio committee. And I think it links back to the earlier findings that I have indicated in this regard. We also then give overall just the implementation of these, and hence we're saying 2 of the 3 is in progress because it's a continuous process for the implementation that we are seeing. I've got 2 set of recommendations that I will be dealing with now, and one is overall for Parliament and the legislative sector, because we do believe from an oversight perspective it's a key role Parliament and legislators that they do play. So the first one we are raising is the matter relating to the legislature sector, specifically around the policy when it comes to unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and having a consistent guideline that should be in place so it provides better oversight. So we are saying, let's see how this can be potentially aligned to the National Treasury guidelines. The second one that we are raising that impacts the sector relates to the performance information. And here we're saying, we know there's a draft framework in place, but there needs to be an approved framework in place that all legislatures then adopt and implement across all the legislature. And then the next one is just in terms of the control environment that needs to be embedded specifically in the area of compliance to laws and regulations, because we do find this is the area of regression. And the last one is just the capacitation of the research units for the various portfolio committees. So, Honourable Chair, my last slide that I will be dealing with is basically more steered towards the committee as such in terms of their role and responsibility and as part of their oversight role. So the first one we are highlighting is the role that they play as an oversight role over the draft strategic plan and annual report of Parliament, and this is one of the reasons why we are meeting here today. So we're highlighting that. And the second one is on the Parliament Rebuild project that we said there should be an appropriate oversight in that regard on a continuous basis then to this committee, because it's quite a huge project. And we can indicate then from our side also we're playing a role with Parliament, where we are doing the auditing of this rebuild project on a continuous basis. So, Honourable Chair, that is the end of my presentation, but we are open for any comments or questions at this point in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And let me take this opportunity and welcome the speaker and the chairperson of the NCOP. I had forgotten that we have the hybrid platform. Welcome, speaker. Welcome, chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, we received the presentation from AGSA. I'm going to provide that we go straight into discussions. Maybe we may want to start by checking if there are honorable members who want to ask questions, or we can do it at the same time, questions and deliberations. Or must we take questions first? Yeah, Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Maybe in response to your question, Chair, I'm not sure if in terms of procedure, was it not appropriate for us to be also favored with the management remedial action plan to issues raised by the AG? Or we will take it that since they are part of the report, we have read the report. I'm not sure, but if not, that's not the case, then we will ask questions, covering both the AG's presentation and the management remedial action plan. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that is the question I was going to ask at the end of engagement with the office of the AG. What we will do, we will check with the STP whether they are ready now to respond to whatever might have been raised by the AG, or if they would want a session with us to come and present plans on how, action plans on how they are remedying the findings that the AG has made. And I think honorable members will also understand that this is a report of 2023-24. So we are a year behind. It's not a report of the immediate previous year. STP, what is your advice here?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good evening to the presiding officers of Parliament, Madam Speaker and Madam Chairperson, to members of the Joint Standing Committees, and yourselves as co-chairpersons. The report we'll be presenting, Chairperson, also covers our implementation of the remedial actions. So we will also be responding on the update where we are on those areas that AG raised points of improvement.
Are you satisfied, honorable members?
Chair, yes, as I've indicated in my submission, I've seen the report that the secretary is referring to, but my question was in terms of the process of this meeting.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we are going to raise issues based on the presentation of the AG without paying attention to how because I fully agree with you. There is a lag here in terms of presentation of this AG's what you call report. So was it not going to be ideal for this meeting to take both presentations simultaneously? So as when we engage in the discussions, then we know, because now we are going to ask questions that are already responded to by management. So it was going to be a bit productive for this meeting. I mean, to take the two reports before we even engage on questions and discussion. Because I've read this and I saw that they have responded. So it's important that as this collective, we take this thing, these reports. That's my suggestion.
It's a very progressive proposal. Let me check with members first if they want to ask questions to the AG. Honorable Mkhalipi.
Yeah, Chair, as much as I understand what Commander does, Honorable Des, what is he saying? But Chair, I think there are questions of clarity in the presentation of the AG.
Yeah.
Just to get a clarity on some of the issues that the AG is touching on, without expecting that the management have responded. For instance, if I may, Chair, if you go to page 9 of the presentation, overall message on portfolio committees, I think the two members are also having an interest because we serve on different portfolio committees. So the AG says here, Parliament through its various committees is in a unique position to exercise influence over the various entities and by setting the tone for entities to influence the life realities of citizens by effectively fulfilling their mandate. What does that mean? What AG does he mean by saying various committees is in a unique position, or Parliament rather? So we need clarities on those things. The other one, Chair, is on page 8, under financial health assessments. The AG is saying in bullet number 2, a financial loss incurred relating to a payment that was made into a fraudulent bank account. There was no vetting of bank account information prior to making payments. The matter is under investigation and was also reported to SAPS. I know management will come to that one because they need to get into details, but for us, to the AG, is to say how far with the investigation, who is investigating that matter, which we think is very important. Then we get to the presentation of Parliament itself. Thanks, Chair.
you asked two questions that you would want the AG's office to respond to. Can I check if there are honorable members who still have questions that they want to ask? Because once the AG responds, we are then going to hand over to the STP to present. Honorable Baden-Horst.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make it clarity. Are we going to deal with the AG report and then the management report afterwards, or are we going to do the questions of both of those?
We're
What
only
can we-
taking questions for clarity so that if there are
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
issues that you may want to clarify with the management report, you'll get that clarity before the report is presented. Honorable Van Rooyen.
No, an irregular expenditure of 7.5, I think is highlighted.
Yeah,
So a breakdown, did the AG conduct that breakdown? Because that's what I missed. of
okay,
That irregular expenditure. Thank
okay.
you. That- I think
Honorable
that's-
Molefe.
Positive matter that the AG found offensive. It refers to note,
May you please pull the microphone closer?
it refers to note 35 relating to the DBSA. And I tried to go through note 35, it's very long. I could not see exactly what it was about the DBSA because there were other related parties that were referred to, hundreds of them. But that the DBSA, I could not see what the issue was. So if I could be clarified on that. And then secondly, to the AG, these statements, financial statements are prepared according to the GRAP, generally recognized accounting practice. And in terms of statement, I think it's statement number 10 or article number 10, I'm not sure what they call it now. It refers to the need to disclose the key sources of uncertainty. So I tried to look for that information of the key sources of uncertainty so that the reader of the financial statements can understand what are the main risks relating to the management of Parliament. And then the other, I think it's IFRS requires that there should be impact assessment, or they call it the triple something, environment, social, and just the impact assessment of the work of Parliament. I'm not sure, so these statements are not prepared according to IFRS, but is there not a in the requirements for the presentation of the financial statements, a similar requirement for the impact assessment? This general impact assessment, impact on society, impact on the environment, impact on other things of the work of Parliament as part of their report of their activities for the year. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Nilmay.
No, thank you, Chairperson. Good evening to our joint chairs, our colleagues here, and the Auditor General. I think, Chair, the first thing that I wanted to comment on with the AG is that we appreciate the report and appreciate that that Parliament has a clean audit. I think that is something that is really something that we can be proud of. And it is a beacon of hope, not only for other legislatures in South Africa, but also in Africa. So I think that was very important that we needed to comment on. The other areas have been covered in what I was going to just have some clarity on. And the clarity, the one area was the vacancy rate, although it is 17.76%, it is the unfunded posts remain reported as a vacancy. Is there no other way that one can report that in that sense? Because it will then still come through the report as being vacancy rate. So that was the other areas. The Commonwealth information, the bank account is one of the areas that I wanted to discuss. And obviously the regular expenditure, which was mentioned, the big summit and the legislature summit, etc. But thank you so much. It is appreciated.
Thank you so much. Office of the AG.
Okay. Now, thank you so much, Honorable Chair, through you for the questions. So we will respond to the questions. The first one, Honorable Chair, relating to the oversight role and responsibility as indicated in slide 9. So if we go back to the strategic document of Parliament itself, it does indicate the work that they do as Parliament should have an impact on the citizens on the ground. So when we were looking at this, we were referring back to what Parliament indicates as an institution, the key things that they want to drive in this regard. And also secondly, from an oversight perspective, if we take from the oversight roles and responsibilities, specifically the portfolio committees, which has the opportunity of the budget, the strategic plans that then is tabling, the specific things that comes then also in terms of matters that is raised, that departments and entities are called to come and account, the quarterly reports that then comes to the table of these various committees, and also the oversight visits that does occur in terms of their roles and responsibilities and the mandate. So it was in that context, Honourable Chair, that we were making the linkage to what is in Parliament's strategic plan, and also as the AGSA, the centre, the work that we want to do in the auditing part is to make an impact on the lives of the citizens, just to give that context in that regard. Then what I would request in terms of page 8, where we're referring to the fraudulent payment in terms of the bank account, I think Parliament will be in a better position to provide feedback, because there has been some internal investigation that from their perspective that has been done, that they're able then to provide more information than in that regard, Honourable Chair. Okay. Then in terms of the irregular expenditure, if we go basically to the annual report, what is disclosed there, but I'm sure Parliament will be able to give more context. But what is disclosed is to indicate there was an appropriate approval levels for that in terms of the delegation that resulted in that irregular expenditure. But I'm sure the actual detail Parliament will then be able then to provide then in this regard. But that was the breakdown that was disclosed then in the financial statements. So if I can then 5 that deals specifically with the DBSA matter, and what it speaks about there, it speaks about it refers yes to the related party transactions, because with the Parliament rebuilt, essentially public works supposed to have a role in responsibility, but the money then by Treasury has then been given to Parliament, which basically DBSA is playing that implementing agency role for the Parliament rebuild, and there's clear agreements in place in this regard. So key based on this is a significant project, and also the financial implication that deals with it. So that note then highlight in terms of the rebuild and that process and the contractual arrangement that exists between Parliament and DBSA. So that is basically what that note emphasized, and what we then did from our side based on what is in that note, we emphasizing. But I think if further is required, also Parliament will then be able to provide the more context and then the more detail to the members. Then I want to respond to the other members' question, honourable members' question, in terms of the preparation of the financial statements. So 100% right, when we prepare the financial statements, it's in terms of the GRAP reporting framework, as we basically indicate in the audit opinion of what it comprises with, and specifically with the focus when we're looking at this, also important that we also include the legislatures, which is the Financial Management Act of Parliament and provincial legislatures. So, and that is a key legislation when we basically do the auditing of Parliament. The next question relating to IFRS, so 100% right, they comply with the GRAP reporting framework. But important to note, so the report is the sustainability report part of it. So as Parliament's annual report, they would, as part of the performance information, that would be a depiction on, based on the targets and indicators that they've set for themselves, what was the delivery against these targets and indicators. And I think they can also then provide more context because they've got their own framework in place and their own basis. It's also then certain things from a sustainability perspective that is disclosed. So it's just to say what is it additional maybe that the members would like to see, but they don't have to comply then with the IFRS requirement, but the performance information framework is supposed to take in all of those things into context in that regard. Then the last one, Honourable Chair, on the vacancy rate, I think it's most probably something that Parliament will be able to be in a much better position to respond to the vacancy rate and then the way forward in that regard. Honourable Chair, I hope I've appropriately covered the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Want to make follow-up questions? In that order, Honorable Van Rooyen and Honorable Molefe.
Yeah, Chair, besides that, I can, because I tried to put this thing, some of us survive serious bombings. So, amandla akasazwa kakuhle. Yeah, and so I'm struggling to get the details of some of the responses. Like on this one of, I think she drew a triangular relationship of Parliament, DBSA, and Public Works. But I didn't get the details. So what's the issue about that relationship that we should be taking special attention to as members of Parliament? I think that's an area that I didn't hear clearly. And I think it's very important that we hear that because there are issues with Public Works that we really want to table to this committee. Thank you.
Yes, Chair. I was also going to say that I did not understand the explanation relating to note 35. We know that it talks about related parties, but what is it about the DBSA that prompted a matter of emphasis? Because the matter of emphasis just says refer to note 35, but note 35 is very long and I actually don't understand it, and I did not get the clear sense of what was offensive about the relationship between Parliament and DBSA. And the second one is on the GRAP 10. The member, sorry, the AG representative says it's true that they use GRAP, but my question was the disclosure in terms of GRAP 10 made and was it audited? And the disclosure in terms of GRAP 10 is, did Parliament disclose their key sources of uncertainty? That is what GRAP 10 requires the Parliament to disclose. And I would imagine that is what the Auditor General must audit. And then the third one is, yes, you're correct. It's called the Sustainability Report. And my question really was, is there a sustainability report that reports on the impact of the work of Parliament? And was that sustainability report audited, or its existence or non-existence audited? And so that is not for, I was not asking to management. I was asking if the Auditor General has checked these things that I'm talking about. Thank you.
Welcome, Honorable Michalakis. Thank you so much. We are back to you, Office of the AG.
No, perfect. Thank you so much, Chair. So maybe in terms of the follow-up, the first part is the emphasis of matter. So I must maybe just clarify what is an emphasis of matter. An emphasis of matter is not that the auditors say there's something wrong with the relationship or what has been disclosed in the financial statement. All the emphasis of matter is it's highlighting then to those that will be reading the financial statements, this is actually a significant matter in terms of the funding arrangement and the money that will be spent by Parliament relating to the rebuild. So there's nothing wrong to say there's something wrong with the contractual relationship or the relationship Parliament has entered into. So what we as auditors are doing, we're just highlighting in terms of the arrangement as disclosed in terms of the amounts that has been paid over then to DBSA, and then that specific disclosure that has been made in that regard in that note 35 as such. So it's not that we're saying there's something wrong, but we're saying this is something of significant nature that should be taken note of. And hence was probably one of the recommendations we do bring is to say, from an oversight perspective, when it comes to the Parliament rebuild, it's still a continuous process. There should be some mechanism from an oversight perspective. So it's not per se that we're saying there's something wrong or something that we are concerned about emphasizing it. But because we felt from an auditing perspective, it's a significant amount of money over the number of years that we will be spent on the rebuild, it's important that there is the oversight part also then occur in that regard. So that's why we were emphasizing it. So the report still remains then the same. Then the other one, so when we basically audit, so when we go back to the framework, there is specific then standards that would be applicable then to Parliament and legislators in terms of the GRAP reporting framework. So the one that the members referring to, I think specifically in terms of the hyperinflation part of it. So one of the key things that we normally do as part of GRAP 1, important in terms of preparation, also relating to GRAP 3, that we need to make sure that the entity is a going concern. So we need to make that assessment. So I can indicate based on that GRAP standard in terms of GRAP 1 and 3, we have looked at is the entity then a going concern and can they operate? So that was the key considerations from our side that we have made then in that regard when it comes to the GRAP reporting framework and specifically in terms of the going concern. On the sustainability side, I can confirm it's not something that we've audited from our side. We've just audited the information as disclosed based on the information in the annual report, which is the performance information. So there was no separate sustainability report that we've audited from our side. I hope that covers the questions, Honorable Chair. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
The answers of the representative from the Auditor General don't address the questions that I'm asking. I mean, I know what is an emphasis of matter. Why is public works not an emphasis of matter? Because they also do a lot of work with public works. So I really don't understand what.
No, it's fine. I get comfort from the fact that you have accepted that we must move forward. Yeah. Maybe what we can do here after is to request something in writing. If you can put your question in writing and we forward it to AGSA for further explanation, I think that would be sufficient. I don't think it's a matter which should hold this meeting back. We must now move to the STP for presentation. The STP has made a commitment that their presentation will give us a better understanding on what active steps have been taken in the previous year to correct or remedy some of the findings that have been made and communicated here to us. How much time does your office need STP to make the presentation?
Chairperson, we will not go beyond 40 minutes.
Okay. You need 40 minutes or less.
There's a possibility of less, Chair.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and once again, good evening to honorable members. This report is a statement of accountability on the side of the administration of Parliament in terms of its responsibilities to execute the work of Parliament as discharged by both houses. So it's a statement for the financial year 2023-24, and it covers the areas that are outlined in the table of contents, essentially 5 focus areas that constitute areas that Auditor General annually audits and reports on. That covers business of Parliament, reporting performance under the year, and also reflecting on the financial statements, the human capital management, and governance report. At the level of the legal framework, honorable members, the work we are reporting is governed in terms of the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, essentially requiring us in terms of Section 5 to report on the annual activities of the administration of Parliament and report on those areas in terms of financial statements preparations. And that annual report will then be tabled in terms of Section 59 to cover the annual performance in terms of operations, but also the audited financial statements. I would not spend a lot of time, Chairperson, on the areas that reflect on the vision, mission, and focus area of Parliament, save to indicate that during the strategic planning process, we have covered these areas, and there were areas of improvements that members requested in the 7th Parliament to enhance the vision, mission, and values of Parliament. The framework under which we are reporting 2 years in the last leg of the 6th Parliament. The 23-24 and the 24-25 would basically cover the full term of the 6th Parliament in terms of accounting for the work done. And at the time that we were reporting last year, the framing of the macro framework for Parliament required us to focus on building on the 5 pillars: the pillar of responsive Parliament, a Parliament, and stakeholder-centric Parliament. And all these areas articulate the requirements of improving the trust level of citizens and how to position a Parliament that is on the ground and actively responding and intervening on issues facing society. On the aspect of the business of Parliament, our report, honorable members, covers 5 areas: the oversight, the lawmaking, public participation, cooperative governance, and international relations. And these are areas that in our institutional performance, we cover largely as core big business focus areas of Parliament. Just to cover the first mandate area of performing oversight, we are reporting on the areas where at the level of exercise of oversight in the House sittings, in both houses, we have noticed that during the year under review, there's been an improvement, not only in the number of questions asked, but also correspondingly an improvement on the quality of responses in terms of response rate. And if you compare the NA and NCOP, there's been more questions that have been asked at the level of NCOP, whereas in NA there's been a drop. Yet on the response rate, there's been a marked improvement in both areas, showing significantly that during that year under review, there's been a marked focus on accountability that Parliament has extracted from the executive. On the dimension of debates and sitting in houses, there were 287 debates that were scheduled and 120 plenary sitting, and that reflected a high level of legislative and oversight activity in the sittings of the NA, compared to the NCOP. 53 debates were held, including 48 plenary sitting in terms of dealing with provincial interest. Again, they reflect an ongoing commitment by Parliament to drive robustly the aspect of debate and promoting Parliament as an epicenter of decision-making and accountability. The third dimension of oversight that we are reporting on is on committee activities. We have sampled a number of activities, honorable members, where committees have undertaken outbound missions of oversight, where they responded to issues either reported in the public domain or issues that society has raised. Amongst those is justice and correctional services that pick up the much reported issue of the escape in the Bloemfontein maximum prison, the minerals energy that focused on Northwest and Gauteng provinces, as well as the issues of mining around illegal mining activities of Zamazamas and so on, the flood disaster relief, the follow-up that was done in terms of visits in flood affected areas in KZN and Free State, public accounts committee that also investigated in particular the issue of the road accident fund, the Kusile power station and rail infrastructure issues. Further work on committees focus on disaster disaster relief recovery, the human settlement around informal settlement conditions in Stellenbosch, in defense, focusing on Project Byro, as well as in Gauteng and Limpopo, focus areas around the work of the law enforcement agencies in terms of the police. Moving away from the oversight, the report also covers the lawmaking mandate of Parliament, essentially reflecting that during the year under review, 57 bills were passed in the National Assembly, and NCOP passed 38 bills in terms of the various tagging of the bills we have. And this reflect including focus areas on some of the bills that were contentious in the public domain, the expropriation bill, electoral matters amendment bill, the national health insurance bill, as well as financial related bills. On the aspect of public participation, these are the public participations that took place during the year under review. 255 public hearings were run across various provinces. And in addition to those public participations, there were 15 petitions that were received from society in terms of concerns of citizens. And we have categorized these honorable members in terms of the focus areas. There were water related, infrastructure related, employment and economic related, public safety and environment, agriculture and veterinary issues, arts and culture funding. And in terms of status for the year under review, 7 of those petitions were dealt with and publicized, of which 7 were scheduled for consideration during the year under review, meaning at the time of the closure of the annual financial period, those matters were under consideration and they will be duly reported in the 24-25 annual cycle of performance. The fourth area speaks to cooperative governance mandate of Parliament, essentially focusing on municipal interventions in a number of municipalities that a number of Section 139 interventions were received and processed by the National Council of Provinces, ranging from the provinces that are outlined, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and all those were processed and continue to be monitored. Under international relations, one of the key focus areas that we are reporting on is IPU, Interparliamentary Union, of which Parliament is a member and serves in a number of structures of that body of local governments. During the year under review, Parliament participated in the 148 IPU. And also at the level of SADC, Parliament is a member of the SADC forum that is currently undergoing tremendous transformation now into a fully fledged regional parliament. And Parliament participated in its sittings during the year under review. Under IR in general, Parliament also sits under the Pan-African Parliament and has participated in a number of its sittings, both at a regional as well as international level. CPA being one of those areas that in terms of the focus of NA and NCOP, IPU, and CPA are the global multilateral bodies of local governments in which we serve, CPA being the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. At the level of regions, these are some of the activities that Parliament has held engagements, including bilateral sessions that Parliament also undertake. And with the courtesy of time, Chair, I would not necessarily read each and every element of those reporting activities. In summary, Chairperson, having taken into account all the 5 focus areas of reporting by Parliament, the following is a summary of the overall outcome as detailed in the annual report. During the year under review, at an overall level, Parliament reports almost 81%, 8.65% performance for the year under review, checked and audited by the Auditor General. On the areas where we have not met those targets that we have set, we have highlighted which of those areas. At the time of reporting at the end of the year, the restoration of Parliament is one of those areas where the targets that were set at the time, meaning a specific target to complete the design work for the old assembly and the new assembly, they were not completed as at the end of that period. And that constitute the indicators that were highlighted under that area, and it will be reported the reasons behind that. On program 2, focusing on lawmaking and oversight, we have reported a 77.27 performance. And in that area of program, there is about 5 areas where targets were not met. That speaks to the committee planning framework, the impact assessment framework, monitoring and tracking mechanism, the stakeholder framework, as well as member satisfaction rate in terms of public participation. Specifically, these activities, Chairperson, they were all concluded as at the end of the year, meaning the output required was completed and delivered. However, what makes us to report as unachieved is because it required to be presented at a committee level so that it is then signed off. So the governance aspect of it is what has held it back at the end of that transition. And those were completed as tasks, but our performance requires that it is not only about doing it, it must be signed off. So it's the signed off aspect that make us report them as unachieved. Under financial statements, the detail, Chairperson, reflects the overall budget of Parliament versus the operational budget that has been allocated. How much have we spent? In the overall, Parliament spent 74% of the overall budget of 4.3 billion rand. And honorable members would notice that across all these classifications of expenditure, the one that stands up is the one of the acquisition of property, plant and equipment. That speaks to the rebuild project of Parliament, where an amount of 1 billion rand was allocated in terms of the actual building. But the time of delivery was about the planning and design phase. Hence, only 140 million was spent. Sequentially, in subsequent years, members will see an improvement depending on the phase of the project where it was required to be reported. In terms of our comparison of budget versus expenditure for the year under review, we highlight areas where it reflects variance, either as underspending variance, for instance, compensation of employees 5%, and in the compensation of members 15% overspending. And it is highlighted the drivers of that overspending, the triggers being the exit period of members who were on a turnover of the term and or members who have retired or resigned at that particular time. Goods and services 28%, and as well as property and plant, which shows that an amount allocated was $1 billion, but the activities to spend under that amount were still less in terms of the different stages of design and so on, which takes a longer time before you actually break ground and build. Under financial position of Parliament overview, during the period, we are reflecting two contrasting slides, honorable members. The first one includes the overall financial health of Parliament, where we include the medical cover of members and former members. It's referred to as PARMED. And when you look at the provision of net liability of Parliament, it reflects 283 million as per that first chart above. And that relates largely to post-medical provision made for former members of Parliament and legislatures. And when you contrast with the second pie chart, the last bullet point indicates that if you exclude that liability, our situation immediately improve into a net asset of 946 million rand. Essentially, Parliament took over the obligation in 1999 to cover the members, including former members, both for benefits of medical as well as a travel benefit. And that is paid in the operational appropriation of Parliament, not similar to the remuneration of members, which is part of the National Revenue Fund, where we draw from that fund. In this case, it's directly from Parliament. And this is a contrast we are showing that it is a matter of policy that requires some rethinking to make sure that it doesn't continue to carry a knock-on negative effect on the going concern status of Parliament. The next slide actually articulates the point very clearly, that if you look at where it is now during the current financial year, we're reporting almost 1.1454 billion rand that Parliament is exposed to in terms of that area. It is perhaps a policy matter that once it is looked at, Parliament would reflect on how to respond an ongoing challenge that reflect not so positive on how we are managing that aspect. It would require some policy treatment of which the executive authority would be applying its mind on terms of how to deal with these matters accordingly. The members' loss of gratuity, again, as well as exit gratuity, these are two categories where members leave office, as well as exit gratuity during the cycle of a term. And these are obligations that we are reflecting either a decrease or increase, depending on what was paid for members. The second part of exit respond to adjustments that were made in the policy, where an obligation carried a certain percentage, and during the adjustment in the Gazette that was made for remuneration of public office bearers, those members that were already in the carrying obligation continued to be responded to in terms of Parliament. The post-employment travel benefits, again, these are the status issues in terms of financial positions, as well as comparison of assets in terms of receivables and cash equivalents of Parliament. On the heritage assets, again, these are the status comparison year on year, the marginal shifts that are reported on those areas, reflecting no major alarm on the financial outlook. The issues of member benefits, again, it's fully provided for in terms of the current benefits of members, benefits of employees that have been provided for in terms of increase in the provision of employee remuneration, as well as employee benefits in terms of annual cost of living, as well as employee performance awards in terms of performance of employees. Under fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we are disclosing an amount of 991,000, and that's a combination of a number of of items that constitute that amount, ranging from travel-related issues. Either a vehicle would have been in an accident during travel, or there would have been adjustment in tickets and so on. So it's a combination of about 6 or 7 items that fall under that category. Irregular expenditure, as disclosed this year, was 7.536 million. And largely the contributors of those is 2 conferences that Parliament convened, BRICS, as well as Oversight Summit. And the third area related to legal costs that were incurred. All 3 largely contributed to that amount. So both the fruitless and wasteful expenditure and the irregular expenditure, by our policy, we are required, as they are potentially regular, to be determined as such by the Governance and Assurance Committee that looks at it. Both cases that are contained under fruitless and irregular have now been reported to the Governance Assurance Committee that is assessing that report and make recommendation on how there must be treatment from an accounting point of view, but also accountability in terms of administration of Parliament. We envisage that at the end of May, that work would be concluded and be reported as such. On the litigations register, it shows a decrease of 21% compared to prior years, and the reasons as outlined. On the human capital category of reporting, it covers such areas: employee wellness, employment relations, talent management, as well as change management support activities in terms of strengthening the administration of Parliament. In those areas, we are reporting that Parliament had a vacancy rate of 17.76%, and the staff turnover is at 4.2%, less than 5%. And in that 17.76 of members, it comprises of 2 elements. The first element is funded and vacant position. The second category is vacant but unfunded. So collectively, they constitute 17.76. And in areas where capacity has to be implemented in terms of support work, there's currently work we're doing in the administration to fill positions in the various support areas of our committees, researchers, content advisors, committee secretaries, language practitioners. All that work is currently a top priority in our talent acquisition committee under HR. On the overview of human capital, again, these are areas that we are working on in terms of a number of employees who have been taken to. We are reporting about 370 staff members, as well as review on the work of policies. The last category is on the governance report. And that report AG has already spoken to in terms of the outcome of AG, and essentially covering all areas that I would not repeat in terms of the overall financial management outlook of Parliament and the final outcome that AG has indicated. The area, honorable members, around the case of CPA, Commonwealth Property Association, there's a case that is reported in the disclosures that pertain to us paying a subscription to CPA, which is a member organization of all parliaments in the Commonwealth. So Parliament has always been a member of it. It received an invoice from the CPA, and upon receipt of that invoice, it indicated in the invoice that the bank account, please note, bank account have been changed, and these are the bank accounts of CPA. And after payment, CPA contacted Parliament and said, we are waiting for payment. And Parliament says, we've paid, here is a proof. And they then said, no, we have not sent you any bank changes. So that must have been a fraudulent intent. We immediately notified the bank in the same month of April. And upon notifying the bank, they said it looks like Barclays Bank in London, where CPA account is held for Commonwealth. The account has already been drawn. So we reported the matter to law enforcement, the Hawks, with the case number. The matter is under investigation by the Hawks. In terms of internal control, in terms of if there's any officials of Parliament responsible for that, that work is being done at the level of Governance and Assurance Committee that was established to look into those matters in terms of FMPLA. And once that report has been concluded, it will be reported as such in terms of accountability. These internal control assessments have been reported. I would not spend time on them, Chair, except on areas where we said, are we implementing the remedial measures? Members would see that under the improvement in the information technology, under the area of prepare regular and updated financial statements, as well as monitoring compliance. These are the areas we have started working on, as well as under governance areas. We have not received any area to highlight. And based on the overall report of Parliament, we are reporting that there's been improvement in the internal control environment, and that has also been attested to by the Audit Committee in its own separate report in receiving the report from AG. On the areas of management action plan, based on the management report by AG, the 13 areas that were identified that require remedial action, we are reporting that during the year under review, honorable members, 8 of those matters have already been responded to and concluded, of which 5 are ongoing. And they pertain to issues of irregular expenditure, disaster recovery site, the payments made into the fraudulent account in terms of the CPA matter. And we are reporting that this matter has been reported accordingly. The server room compliance to be serviced in an ongoing basis. We are touching the timeline that by April, the matter would be attended to, whereas the disaster recovery site requires us to identify another place, and we have given ourselves until 31 March 2026, as well as concluding on matters that are before the GAC. So overall, Chairperson, the action areas that required us were 13, and 8 were concluded, of which 5 are ongoing in terms of progress to address them. The last slide, Chairperson, is a concluding slide in terms of tabling the report formally on behalf of the Executive Authority of Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That was a presentation from STP, and I'm going to now allow honorable members to ask questions on the presentation. And maybe before that, I want to check on the visual platform if there is any members or any individual who will want to raise a question on the visual platform. Because we can't see here. Esther?
Good evening, Chairperson. Not at this time. No, there are no hands at the moment.
Okay, thanks very much. Can you now check with honorable members? I'll start with Honorable Siwisa, Honorable Badenhorst. Yes, we can start Honorable Siwisa. I'll just note.
No, thank you, Chair. Chair, let me start with let's welcome the report from the AG, even though I didn't have any questions directed to the AG, but it was going to be questions directed to the Secretary to Parliament. There are a few issues. I thought I would pick them up, Chair. And I think I've always requested if we can get the legacy report so that when we ask questions or when there's an annual report that's been put forward, then we know it comes from this legacy, this is where they are. My first question that I want to check with the STP through your Chair is when we speak about travel, the wasteful expenditure, traveling, specifically, he spoke about cars, accidents. Does it also include flights that are being cancelled or that are being postponed, especially when it comes to international flights? Because we know it's a bit tricky to book an international flight, and then the next thing you postpone it for a later flight. Does that also include that? That's the first question. The second one, Chair, I'm just going to be very quick because it's a lot of questions. It's a lot of them. I want to check with the STP because if we are going to have accounts that are not being verified and money is deposited into accounts, it means that we are going to have problems. And I know they are saying that there is an investigation that's going on. We are in the financial year 25-26 as we are speaking, and we are sitting with a report of 23-24. I stand to be corrected. The investigation should have been finished by now. We should know who to blame. We don't have money, Chair, in the country, and we are hoping that tomorrow when the budget is being put forward, it's actually going to favor South Africans. That's what we are hoping. But you can't be sitting whereby money has just vanished to London, to a Barclays account that we don't know, and we are in 25-26 financial year, and we don't know who's accountable. We should actually be sitting here and being told that this is how far the investigation is. These are the people that are accountable. Because, Chair, if we are going to go on with the trend that money is being deposited in accounts that we don't know, then it's going to be, and it's not the first time, Chair. It's not the first time where we find ourselves, not necessarily the office of the Secretary of Parliament, but it's not the first time we find that money meant for service delivery finds itself in some people's accounts and people just vanish. So I wanted to check, Chair, from the STP, we are speaking about, when we speak about your program too, and we speak about oversight, speaking about you are going to be in collaboration with public and service societies. Can you please elaborate, what do they mean about that? Poor performance of ministers. How do you assess the performance of a minister if a minister cannot even answer questions in Parliament or even give you a written reply that is satisfactory? How are you going to assess the performance of a minister? If we can also get an elaboration, if we speak about assessing the performance of ministers, public participation, especially when it comes to budget and fiscal, Chair. It seems as if we are rushing the process. I'm speaking about this one because it's a burning issue that we need to make ample time. We need to make sure. So how are we going to make sure that individual South Africans actually participate? Because I think I've also said this also in our meetings to say that we need to have more individuals making input on that. Petitions that have been put in, also I'm going to link it with the performance of ministers. We have a crisis of water supply. I can tell you now in Magareng, Warrenton, the petition was put in this financial year we are speaking about. Those people are still sitting without water. How do we measure the performance of a minister? If a petition was put in and then it was discussed and then we are waiting for the final report to see those people are still sitting without water, goes back, how do you measure the performance of a minister if there's no participation? Whistleblowers. People are afraid to speak out, Chairperson, Secretary to Parliament. People are afraid to speak out because they are being killed. How are we protecting our whistleblowers in South Africa. Corruption is going up and up. There's fraud, there's corruption around leadership proximity. The alleged suspects, they've got they've got the safety of leadership. They're in the proximity of people that are actually supposed to hold people accountable, but they are not. Issue of disciplinary action against officials suspected to be involved in corruption. How many resignations have been, how many investigations have been done, Chair? So those are some of the things we need to hear when we are sitting here. And I'm just going to go a bit further, Chair. When it comes to, I want to check with the STP, Chair. And 2 years ago, the STP appointed personal advisors on a temporary basis. Are those people still there or they are gone? If they are still there, who approved for them to be there and the level at which they are getting paid? Because we need to save money, Chair. There's legal in Parliament. We already have people of legal that have been paid in Parliament. So if we're temporary people 2 years back, and are they still there? If they are there, what process were followed for those people to still be there? The issue of security of the STP. I'm trying to come with ways to save money, Chair, so that when we make allocation, we know how we make allocation tomorrow. Security of the STP, who approved it? We're speaking about money. We need money that's going to make sure that the service delivered. Office of the STP, legal advisories, temporary advisories, who approved? Was it an approval of both houses? And who was championing that? Number 2, security, both Cape Town and Gauteng. Who approved it? And is it subs? Is it security of subs or is it private? And what were the regulations that were followed for that? I think for now, I'm just going to stop there, Chair, because it's a lot that I can ask, but I want to give my colleagues a chance. Thank you very much.
Thanks, honorable members. I'd like to make a plea because the STP made a presentation. We understand that they might have information that you might know that from where we're sitting, especially myself, I'm not sure about Honorable Lekhanyan, where we still need to get also the information regarding what you are saying, because the focus was on the presentation from the STP and the AG. So I would request that for other questions that our members have got that was not aligned, maybe you can just do the presentation, then obviously we're going to deal with it, because we don't want to cloud the presentation with the questions that we feel that we are not on the presentation. So it's not that some of the things that honorable members were out of order. Honorable Kalipi, my apologies, Badenhorst. No, I noted all honorable members. Honorable Badenhorst.
I can go whenever you're ready for me, Chair, no problem. I can wait.
I noted you.
Thank
You had a second.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. Good evening, colleagues and the administration. Thank you very much. Chair, I'll refer to the management report of the Auditor General, and I'll try and refer to the pages so it's easier to follow my questions. So on page 12, there's a link to irregular expenditure in the annual report. I think it's paragraph 53. That talks to 2 occasions where the identified funds were spent on awarded contracts that were not approved prior to the incurrence of the expenditure. And then it mentions that non-compliance has led to irregular expenditure in the current year. So my question would be, what has been done to recover that irregular expenditure? And then on page 13, there's a reference to a conflict of interest, which then links to page 27, But in fact, the block there on page 13 says conflict of interest, and the impact below 61 and 62, which I'm not going to read, ends with the validity of the exceptions are still under investigation by Parliament. So my question would be, what exceptions are being referred to there? I'm hoping they're following what I'm talking to, but I'm sure that they will tell me if they don't follow. And then on page 14, irregular expenditure. If you can just bear with me, on top of page 14, non-compliance of legislation resulted in irregular expenditure of 463,575. And then the irregular expenditure incurred was not disclosed in the financial statements. So I would just like to know what is being referred to there and why wasn't that disclosed? And then it'll be handy if our committee can actually get full reports from the GAC on that. And then also consequence management on page 14. There's some cases mentioned there, irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure in that block. Please could we get details on the cases, what cases were there, what have been cleared and what have not been cleared, and also whether those cases were actually referred to the executive authority as well. Be handy to have that information as well. And on page 27 of the management report, there's mention made of conflict of interest. Suppliers in which persons in service of other state institutions have an interest, some 6.6 million rand. And then suppliers in which close family members of employees has an interest. There was 134,900 there. So if we can get some details on the interest identified and the close family members that have done business with Parliament, that'll be handy for us to know. And then on page 30, there's a summary of the audit findings. These issues were not reported on in the audit report. And I'd like to request some more details on that as well, please, on behalf of the committee, if I may. And then on page 35, give me a second, please. So on page 35, there's mention made of the contractor that was appointed by the DBSA. That's that last block in that, just before point 8. So after the contractor was appointed, DBSA issued contract instructions to instruct the contractor to appoint nominated subcontractors. No evidence was provided that an open and competitive process was followed in the appointment of the nominated subcontractors. The tender documentation indicated there was a closed tender, and no evidence was provided that the tender documentation was provided to any other tenderer other than the appointed nominated subcontractors. Furthermore, motivation to deviate from inviting competitive bids for the appointment of nominated subcontractors were also not provided as required by Treasury Regulation 16A 6.4. So my question would be, why are the Attorney General, the Auditor General not reporting on these matters? I think it's quite substantial. And then on page 37, mention is made, you've got to read between the lines there, but mention is made of overbilling by suppliers, and management don't agree with that. But it says that, you know, we need to have an oversight role over that. So if we can get more details on the overbilling by suppliers and what has been done, and then also the last block there again refers to subcontractors, and I think I raised that concern once before in this committee meeting, that a company called Nazia has come up as a subcontractor, and that same company is also involved in a PRASA 17 billion rand tender that is now being investigated as well. So I think we need to get more information about subcontractors there as well. Then I've picked up in the annual report on page 185. I have a few questions, but I've taken my my lesson learned from the chair in a previous meeting from one of the co-chairs that said that we mustn't discuss employees in front of them. So I have very specific questions regarding salaries of some of the employees, and I wonder when it would be opportune for me to ask those questions, and I think the committee also need to take note of that. Would that be now, and should we ask the employees to leave and I can ask those questions, or should we do that at a later time? And then the last question, just to the AG, the management report shows concerns on the rebuild project, but the issues are actually not reflected in the AG report. So I would like to ask the AG, what is the amount of irregular expenditure actually, and how much is there's a contract with Mazia that was on the, I think on the demolition. What was that contract actually worth, and was that disclosed? And if it wasn't disclosed, why is it not disclosed? Thank you very much, Chair. But I'd like to just get your ruling on the salaries, if I may. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kalipi. I've noted, yeah. All honorable members are going to speak.
Oh, thanks, Chair. I won't be long, but I just want to find out from page 27 STP, Net Financial Position Overview 2023-2024. Last time I was attending this meeting for the first time, and I remember the chairperson of NCOP said some of the matters that are raised here by the STP, especially regards to gratuity, is sitting in the front of the president's desk. So maybe we can be updated on that one of gratuity, with how far with that matter, because STP here is saying Parliament is paying a lot of money regards to issue of permit, especially of the former members of Parliament and also from the legislatures. And he even saying here in the presentation, they have also engaged with the National Treasury to take over this. I don't know, co-chairs, because when EFF came to Parliament in 2014, we have resolved on this matter of permit. There was a way forward. My colleagues from the ANC, especially Honorable Doris, will also remember that we even had a task team, STP, from the Chiefs Forum to resolve on this matter, because permit was proven that is very expensive, and because is according to the Act of Parliament. The previous STP that we found here in 2014 agreed with us to say we need to change the Act of Parliament not to be compulsory, because as we speak now, it's compulsory. I don't know what went wrong, but we took this matter to court as EFF, but we persuaded one another after that as political parties to say, let us not go to court. This thing of permit must be resolved. It must not be compulsory. Members must choose if they want to be part of permit or they don't want to be part of permit and use other schemes. Maybe STP, as the Secretary of Parliament, we must go back to that kind of engagement. And also to get an update, because we are saying here, the National Treasury on numerous occasions, you have consulted with it to take over the management and payment of the post retirement medical aid. So this thing must be cleared now. What is the way forward? Members must have a choice about this, but this is a lot of money that is expected from Parliament. That is one. Number two, on the public participation, I think we touched on this issue last time as well when we engaged. It's well and good that the report says that 255 public hearings took place in that year as the STP is reporting. But public participation, okay, take place, and then what? And then what, Chair? Do you remember during the public hearing of the land expropriation without compensation? We're wasting Parliament's time, money, people's time. We go all over the country. People are expressing themselves in numbers. Let us expropriate land without compensation. But comes to Parliament, all those exercise is useless. They take a different direction. They take a decision that is opposing on what people were saying on the ground. So it's well and good to reflect on the report that on the side of Parliament, public participation is taking place. But at the end of the day, are we getting what people are saying? In order for us to say there was a public participation, of course, we're the parliament that are listening to the people of South Africa. To me, chair or co-chairs, we are making fool of people. We go and pretend as if we want to hear what they are saying. We just say to them, we're managing you. Don't come to be against parliament. And then you'll be happy that parliament is here today. Let me tell you, chair, it's very painful when you go to oversight committees. We said in our committee, particularly in my committee, we went and listened to people, and people have lost trust, especially to local government. You come as from parliament now saying, no, we're here to listen to you. And after that, what? Nothing. We always say to them, it's fine, we have heard you, going to engage with your mayor, we're going to take all of your concern to the executive authority, which is the minister. That's it. And I even raised that concern to my committee to say, Chair, let us not even go and fool people during the oversight. So we need to pronounce on this issue of public participation. What is Parliament is saying at the end of the day about the public participation? Program 2, Secretary to Parliament, which is my last point, Chair. Program 2, Oversight Priority Model. This is not the first time I'm raising this thing. It's well and good, you have that model in terms of the role of Parliament, go and do oversight. You go and do oversight as a committee, but as a member of Parliament, there's no specific rule that also permits you as a member of Parliament now. But there is a mechanism that says every Monday is a constituency day. Go and do oversight. I even said to the speaker in one of the platforms, Speaker, it seems as if we don't have protection from the speaker's office. If I go to one of the hospitals in Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, I go as a person, as a member of Parliament, I'm not going to be let in Mahatma Gandhi. They're going to tell me that firstly, there's a moratorium from the province of KZN. No member of Parliament is allowed to come and do oversight here. We raised those things in the speaker's office so many times that it seems as if this constituency is not even make sure what is all about. Because if you go and do oversight, most of the time we are blocked. After we have blocked, when you come back to this institution, there's nothing that seems to resolve the thing. Can we also relook at this thing of the oversight priority model, Secretary to Parliament? The last point about the oversight, we are Parliament of South Africa, 9 provinces. I'm voted by everyone in South Africa, Chair. But if I'm being called by a people of the rural area in Limpopo to say, come and listen to me here in a rural area of Guyane or deep, Malamlela. When I went there, I must think first to say, I must go back to Cape Town or to Durban where I have a house because Parliament is not going to book me an accommodation. When I arrive there in Malamlel, I must spend only 2 minutes to listen to those people of Malamlel because I'm not accommodated. It's now even worse when there are no flights in the country, when there's a crisis of flights. I can't even fly to Eastern Cape because I must also think of flying back to where I'm going to get an accommodation using my own money. Also is also defeating the purpose of oversight of members of Parliament. This is not the first time raising this thing. Number of NA programs adopted. I don't even understand this thing of notice of motion. Every day, even today, I rise to say on the next sitting, let us debate so and so. All of us every day. Maybe we ended up having those arise on the next sitting to debate to the hospital in Malamlela to be built. Maybe we end up with thousands and thousands of those notices of motion. Where do they get implemented? So we must also tap into that to know we must not just do things for the sake of doing it. let us find expression, STP, to say this thing is not working, and as a monitoring and tracking mechanism in Parliament. My colleagues spoke about the executive members who are also not making sure in terms of accountability. But my problem, because we're not talking about the executive who are not here, but Parliament, what are you doing about it as Parliament? We have a mechanism in place to say that they must come and account here. Even today, I think there were 3 or 4 members of the executive with their deputies who are not members of the executive. You, as a member of Parliament, you go on the ground, you get issues that affecting people, you come and draft a member statement, you speak alone here. And then the chairperson up there saying, is any members of the executive who want to respond? Especially today, I was speaking about the issue of case of Kwek. No one responded. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. So those are the things that Parliament must also assist with in order to ensure, or if we want to say that you are the Parliament of the people, in order for us to know, are we lying to people of South Africa or are we not? Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Des.
Hello, Mdula Stul. Representative Gray. I think I will continue to ask on this question that has already been asked about the matter that was referred to or reported to SAPS and currently is handled by the Hawks. Complementing, of course, the concern that was raised by the honorable member of the duration of this investigation process. I want to check, when was this matter reported to the Hawks, or maybe to SAPS and finally handed over to the Hawks? But also, when was the last update given to Parliament on the matter? I'm raising this because there is a tendency within our law enforcement entities to take their time to deal with some of these serious matters. So I think it's important for us to know the progress in as far as this matter is concerned. But also, I might have missed it in the financial statement, pardon me. What's the value of this transgression? Let's get to know the monetary value as a result of this transgression. And on the AG's raised issues, I mean, the matter of emphasis that we didn't get a detailed response from the AG on, the Parliament and DBSA agreement. I think in a nutshell, we agree that the AG is saying we should exercise vigilance as we deal with this process. So it will be important for us to hear from the management the details of your response to this concern, just to make sure that as MPs, we know exactly what is your plan to make sure that whatever that the AG is concerned of or might be concerned of will definitely be taken care of. Can we just get the details of your plan to deal with this? Because it has been flagged as something that we are expected to exercise vigilance on as members of Parliament. And the other issue, Chair, is on the issue of Department of Public Works. Maybe I should start by raising our concern as MK Party on what is currently happening. We have, of course, we acknowledge in the first place that Parliament utilizes facilities that are managed by the Department of Public Works. And of course, that saves a lot of money for Parliament. But now the latest development, I mean, there is a facility by Public Works, the dome, which is not utilized. And we are lately informed that it might not be utilized for some time. So that simply suggests that money must be used to pay facilities outside this provision. Now the question is, what is the provision in the current budget for this? Or maybe that's something that will be reported in the next report from the AG. But we are extremely concerned as NK Party that we continue to incur this cost. And we don't think it makes sense because this dome is not used for the first time. This dome has been used, if our memory serves us well, since I think it was the funeral of, if this is the information is correct. It's a dome that was used during the funeral of the late President Madiba. So why is so difficult for us to get this dome used and serving its purpose as expected? Because now we continue to incur costs that we don't think are necessary. So I'm not sure, as we speak now, how are we going to deal with this unnecessary incurred expenditure. But the root of the matter is that we are very concerned. I thought we should register this as to the minorities that are very expensive. And of course, that simply suggests that they come at a cost. And we are very interested as to why this dome is not functioning. Well, I'm not going to be, I hear the concern of honorable member on asking about members' salaries and all that. No, on issues of HR, we are going to ask just general questions based on the experience that we are exposed to, or we have been exposed to. I mean, if you follow on some of the reasons that caused the much publicized strike that took place in this parliament, there are two key things that came to our attention. And we think it's important that we should continue to exercise oversight on those two issues. Because if we don't do that, a recurrence, it might be possible. The issue of employees' benefits and the issue of disparities in the regimes of pension funds that are existing in this institution. Those are issues that were raised by labor very sharply during the first strike, the highly publicized strike that nearly collapsed this institution, you know. So we want to satisfy ourselves as MPs that those disparity issues have been resolved, because we seem to be using different pension funds regime, and some of them are based on the policies of apartheid, to be honest. And as a result, they discriminate some of the working force here, those who joined later, you know. And that was the issue that was raised by labor in the past. And that's what caused some strikes. How are those disparities dealt with or have been dealt with? And I'm not sure if they were picked up in this report that we are entertaining. But also the other thing, there was an issue about non-payment of performance bonuses. Some were saying 3 years, 2 years. I hope as we speak, there's no employee of this institution where, I mean, the payments is outstanding, because that should be disclosed to us. So tomorrow we don't want to hear it from the street that workers are not happy because their performances are not paid. Can we get then a breakdown of that detail? Because it's very key that we get to know what is the state of employees' benefits as part of your report. Yeah, I think for now, yeah, those are my main questions. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mulife? You're fine. Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chairpersons. Good evening, everyone in this room. Honorable Chairpersons, I'm also on that money that was transferred into a wrong account. My little experience is that it is easy for a bank to trace in whose account that money went to. So for this one to take this long, I really don't understand, because if it's not in someone's account, it must be in a suspense account in the bank. So that is my understanding. And also we will really want for this investigation to be concluded. It cannot go on for for a long time. Then with regard to the question that my colleague up there asked about the salaries of employees, I think as this committee, we must be finished with a report which must be presented to us as this committee. Then the affected officials or official will have to be recused. That goes with the personal questions that the member posed to the STP. I think we will need to get a report about that presented to this committee, then we deal with this matter in his absence or other officials' absence. Then STP, through you, co-chairpersons, I just want to know as to how far are we in terms of filling those posts that are there. The acting is not really assisting us. We want all positions to be filled so that people can take responsibilities of what they are doing. Then on the issue of dome, I understand why this is coming up in this meeting. Fortunately for some of us who serve in the Chief Whips Forum, it is the Chief Whips Forum who requested a dome, and the dome was provided for us. Unfortunately, we utilized that dome even before it could be finalized. So now DPW is busy with the erection of that dome to complete it. They requested for 5 months. And we agreed as the Chief Whips Forum that they must finalize it and there should be a quality assurance, because we don't want to have people or casualties due to the Cape Town winds. We all know that the wind here is very strong. It's very strong. Then the issue of individual members oversight and also committee oversight. That matter, the Speaker has referred it to the subcommittee on rules. The committee was supposed to sit on Thursday. Unfortunately, because of the meeting of this committee again on Thursday, we had to postpone the subcommittee to next week, Tuesday. So we are trying, we will finalize this matter as soon as possible. Then on this report of the AG, on page 7, the prior year irregular expenditure, which relates to approvals not granted by the accounting officer for not obtaining 3 quotations per the procurement requirements of the FMPPLA. I just want to understand this statement. What does it mean? Thank you very much.
Mike Gala, Chief.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, please bear with me. I'm not financially minded, so I might ask a few stupid questions. But what bothers me is I get all of these massive amounts, but none of the details. So there's no breakdown of any of it. And I'm going to ask a few of the details that I see in the financial statements. But just as a start, with regards to travel expenses, what I would like to see, for example, is who traveled where did they sleep, what did they go for, what kind of hotels did they stay in, did they fly business class or economy class, who did they go with, how was it approved, who approved it. Did they approve it afterwards? Did they approve it in the right way? All of those details are missing, and I'm sure when we start looking at some of those travel expenses, we might either find very good news or there might be a few extra questions. That's just one example of a bit of detail that I would like. The devil is in the detail, and I can't see a single devil in this room, but I'm very sure that there are quite a few, and this is what bothers me. So with regards to the travel expenses, I would like to have a bit of more of a detailed breakdown, and I think it would benefit this committee because that is our role to scrutinize that. I have no idea, just forgive me for this, but receivables from non-exchange transactions, staff and members' debt. I would like to please just, this is one of the stupid questions, just please explain to me what it is for. Page 158 of the annual report, the prepayments to DBSA. Now, if I look at, oopsie daisy, if I look at the Auditor General report on page 35, it lists a whole string of things that DBSA did not do, that Parliament did not do. The whole DBSA agreement seems to be a little bit of a problem for me. We're not getting answers on how DBSA was appointed in the first place. After everything that the Auditor General found, why is DBSA still there? The expenses incurred, and then we made prepayments to them as well. All of this is very, very problematic, and there are no details in what we have before us. We can see how much they were paid as a prepayment, what for. We asked in the Chief Whip's Forum the details of that account, or of that contract with the DBSA. I would imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if DBSA did the work that they did, that the Auditor General found in these documents, I would have imagined that DBSA would have been gone a long time ago. But then you sit with a bit of a problem that we sat with at Park Road Police Station, for example, where the Department of Public Works paid service provider money up front. They didn't do the work and then they disappeared. This is my problem with prepayments. So I want some clarity on the building project, and I think all of us do. But what we have before us only indicates that this building project is a real problem. But you just stop a little bit short from giving us the details on why it is. And I find this is, on all of these reports, is you can sense there's something wrong, but it's just out of reach getting the details on why it is. Chairperson, then just if I can go in the financial statements itself a bit further, page 169. If you look at the overtime, the additions are double what the opening balance is. The shift in acting or stand-in allowances are, 8 times what the opening balance is. I'd also want to just find out overtime expenses, why is it as much as it is? Is the vacancy rate at this stage chasing up the expenses? I don't know if the secretary is listening, able to actually make notes and answer my stupid questions. But with regards to the 17% vacancy rate, what is the effect on that for stand-in allowances or acting positions? on that, the 17% vacancy rate, is it not perhaps then a time for you to consider maybe looking at some of those positions and maybe cutting some of them in order to save a bit of money? Parliament does not have money for the basics. On many occasions, we see that oversight trips have been not approved because there isn't funds for it. We sit with a 17% vacancy rate, but I haven't heard that we're looking at how we can cut and where we can cut some of these positions that are at the moment vacant, in favor of doing one of Parliament's core positions, or in one of Parliament's core functions. Then just with regards to page 181, there's performance awards that skyrocketed. Who got the performance awards? What did they do to deserve it? I mean, as opposed to the year 2023, quite a few people had to do quite a spectacular job, or there must have been a factor that might have escalated that. These are questions that are being unanswered. Page 183, your consultants, contractors, and special services doubled over the last financial year. Entertainment went up 3 times. Flowers and other decorations, it might have been because we had the beginning of a parliamentary term, I don't know, but it went from, 300,000 Rand to almost 4 million Rand. That's skyrocketing for flowers and decorations. Personnel, protective clothing and equipment doubled. International travel doubled. These are questions that we don't have answers to. And none of the details is being given to us. There was also in the year 2023 a payment made to the Development Bank of South Africa, page 187, of 2 million Rand. So the DBSA seems to be quite a favorable beneficiary of Parliament, and we would like to know what it's for. The simple reason why I would like to know what that is for is because all the other transactions that Parliament has with DBSA seems to be questionable. Every time I see the words DBSA in any of these financial statements from now on, I'm going to ask what it's for. But these are a few things that really, really bother me, and I would like to have the information so that we can actually interact with you in a bit more detail. There might be nothing, but I can't interact with you properly if I don't have the answers to that. Chairperson, just a last thing also is at the Chief Whip's Forum, the Department of Public Works mentioned that Parliament did not pay its part of the agreement for the setting up of the dome, and that was not honoured. We were then referred to say that it must come to this committee because that's where it's actually supposed to be answered. I would just like to ask if the Secretary would be willing to answer that allegation from the Department of Public Works. Why has that not been done? And if we can get some clarity on that. But Chairperson, just as a last comment to you, if we want to, as a committee, do our job properly, we're going to need the details of the rebuilding of Parliament. It is not acceptable that you say to me that 140 million Rand was spent on the planning of rebuilding Parliament. I should maybe become a quantity surveyor or architect or something instead of a member of Parliament. But 140 million Rand, and it's just into the planning. No wonder the costs escalated. And then the final thing is, if the costs escalate, who's taking responsibility for actually wasting taxpayers' money like this? And this is what some of the members have said. Once we have actually the answers, question is, who takes responsibility for the escalating costs? Who takes responsibility for paying money into the wrong account? Who takes responsibility for any of this? And we're quite a far way, I fear, away from reaching that point, which is where we're supposed to be ending if we want to hold you accountable. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Ellen? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Quite a few of my questions have been have come up from some of the other colleagues here. One of the areas that I just wanted to double check is also the question with regards to the reprioritizing of staff needs. And are there plans to advocate for funding or to reprioritize staffing needs to improve operational efficiency? I think that was something very similar, but if we are needing more staff to cover our work, then maybe that's something we should look at. And the other area is what corrective measures or system improvements have been implemented to prevent similar fraud in the future? And that is the fraudulent bank account on the Commonwealth subscription invoice. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Chair, and greetings once again to the members and the parliamentary staff. I just want to start off by referring to page 20 of the 2023-24 report. Just to quote, it says, "Noteworthy is Parliament's collaboration with the Development Bank of South Africa, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the National Treasury in the reconstruction of the fire-damaged parliamentary buildings, which is progressing swiftly and aligns with Parliament's future vision of operational excellence." Now, chairpersons, I think we're all aware that we're dealing here with an annual report, and obviously as a committee from the program that we've been provided with, we are going to be dealing with a number of issues like the first quarter report. And I know that, for instance, on the 24th of June, we're getting a report from the priority crimes about the fire, the reconstruction of Parliament, the AG, this whole issue of real-time audits. And even we're going to have a look at the strategic plan for Parliament. But the reason I'm actually asking this question is that I was shocked the other day in the Rules Committee, where in fact the Minister of Public Works claimed to have absolutely no knowledge, of the process of rebuilding Parliament. And from this sentence, this paragraph that I read out, it's clear that Public Works is involved. And even chairpersons, you would recall when we had this 7th Administration Joint Committee, we had a report of the Working Committee, the Steering Committee, whatever it's called, where there is Public Works represented. So for the Minister, Minister McPherson, to come to a Rules Committee when his own department is actually involved on a steering committee, and then, claims in front of Parliament, in fact, in my view, misleads Parliament to say that he's not aware. Now, the reason I'm raising this is because I want to make a request that for this financial year under question, we receive from the Secretary to Parliament and those that can provide it, almost like a timeline as to all of these meetings, where was Public Works present, and then even as we go forward with our other agenda items, we need to get these steering committees, because I find it unacceptable that you can have a minister who allegedly, in my view, from what I'm reading here, is actually misleading the House, particularly the Rules Committee, because either his officials are simply not reporting to him, but his DG was in the meeting as well. So I think we're trying to deal with the reconstruction of Parliament. And what concerns me, and I know it's an issue that we're going to have to look at going forward, because it appears as someone new here in the 7th Administration, it seems to be that there's some kind of unwritten tension that maybe we don't understand. I don't know if it goes back to the whole debate about whether Parliament should look after its own infrastructure and issues, that there might be some concerns by the current minister that his department is not as involved as he would like because the DBSA is involved. So I think we should just rather be open about what the issues are. But my one request on this page 20 is to actually ask the STP for a record of all the meetings and whether any meetings were missed by the Department of Public Works. So that's
the one issue that I would like to raise. And then I also wanted to, my understanding from this report and from what I've gathered is that in the NCOP, there's a clear committee that deals with executive undertakings. That in the NCOP that exists. I also know from some of the meetings I've been to of the NA side that there's still a process to set up this executive commitments committee. So all I want to raise, because you can see, you know, if you look at the report that the Secretary to Parliament tabled, a very clear position in my view about the pillars of transformational Parliament. Then if you even go through to the draft 7th Administration Strategic Plan, those issues are followed through. And what I'm just asking is, you know, was there any reason why the NCOP managed to move ahead with executive commitments and the NA has not done that? Was there a particular challenge that we could, because I think all of us have an interest in that process coming through. And then moving towards the end, I just wanted to say that as this portfolio committee, I'm aware that there's going to be vote 2 on the 15th of July, because many of these issues that are coming through the annual report that colleagues are raising, the lack of resources to do oversight, you know, questions about the entire parliamentary budget, PARMED and so on, means with the powers that Parliament actually has, it really is in our hands to actually make a decision about what the different departments and Parliament's in Parliament's hands. So we should really take this issue seriously from what we learned from this annual report. And now that we have the privilege and the honor to be in the 7th administration with the clearly defined powers in terms of the money bills legislation. So it's actually up to us to really make sure that Parliament and obviously other departments is always competing interest. But we want, as we've said in the draft, we want an activist Parliament in the 7th administration. So let's take the budget process very seriously, especially vote 2, which is going to be discussed on the 15th of July. And I just want to say, Chair, I also share the members' concerns about PARMED. Maybe you can actually assist us if there is going to be a specific session on PARMED, because I think one of the honourable members raised the fact that, you know, every year this issue gets discussed. My understanding is that it might actually, if there is going to be the issue of choice, that we might, it was apparently thrown back at us because apparently Parliament passed the very law which set up the issue of PARMED, and we can see what a drain it is actually on the fiscus. So I think that we actually need to make sure that we have a dedicated discussion, and if it's a legislative issue, we need to look at it. Thank you. Chair, sorry,
You're not coming back.
Okay.
We should be closing this meeting now. Honorable members. I had thought that the AG and the presentation of the STP will shape the direction of this meeting. But you can agree with me that most of the issues, including the very last issue that is being raised here by Honorable Cameron, there are decisions that this committee has taken in its formal meetings. So let's allow the office of the AG and the STP to respond to issues that are confined to today's presentations. And the rest of the issues that ourselves in our meetings have agreed, for instance, the issue of restoration, the issue of the dome, the issue of PARMED. And I remember in one meeting, we even said, if there is any other matter an honorable member wishes to register with the presidium for that matter to be put on our agenda in future meetings, those issues should be forwarded. So that every time we develop an agenda of the meeting, we know. I think the next meeting, we have said we must come and receive a report about, we agreed to do a site visit. So that's where the issue of restoration, including the dome, will be presented. There is no issue which will disappear from the radar. We're doing oversight, but we have to be systematic in the manner in which we deal with issues. If it becomes a festival of items, I can tell you we're going to lose focus and direction. So the STP has said that there were 13 matters that have been presented here by the AG, and they have responded to those matters. Honorable members have raised questions pertaining to those matters that fall within the ambit of what is being presented today. Let's get the response. And yes, STP.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you very much, Honorable Members. We will share the responses in terms of the various responsibilities we have. I would like to start with the last issues that Honorable Makalakis has raised. The issue of public works. I'm alive to the fact, Chairperson, that in your next meeting in June, you will reflect in detail on the restoration project and the involvement of all the key players. Chief amongst those is the Department of Public Works. In regard to the specific question of the dome, the contribution that the Minister of Public Works raised on the 7th of May, that they are waiting for Parliament and they are frustrated Parliament is not contributing. To the contrary, Parliament has written to Public Works, not once, twice. Also followed direct to Public Works, and there's records of those. At a time when it is required, we will share accordingly. Where Parliament expressly asked the department, please give us your bank details to transfer 6.9 million that has been agreed as per request of Public Works. So it took us by surprise that at the meeting of Chief Whips, this matter was raised, that the department is frustrated about non-contribution of Parliament. We will also, as requested, detail the involvement of Public Works in our project. As we have always reported to this project, I mean to the Joint Standing Committee and Chief Whips, that there's a tripartite involvement of managing the restoration and rebuilding of Parliament. The National Treasury, Department of Public Works, Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, and the Development Bank of Southern Africa is an appointed implementation agent to implement an account to that structure. So we will detail all those engagements over the period in terms of the partnership that we have, which we have seen no reason so far that it is not understood by various players. On the issue of the opening of the bank account, rather not opening of a case, indeed, Honorable Van Rooyen, we opened a case in July 2024 with the South African Police in respect of the fraudulent activity where we received an account, and when we received, we made the payment. And upon discovery, we tracked back, and our bank interacted with Barclays Bank in London. The account is in London because CPA headquarters are in London. So they then disclosed to us that the account of which we paid incorrectly has been cleared. How much money was involved? It's 1.173 million that was involved. That's a subscription. In terms of pound, it is 49,000 rand. In terms of pounds, that's the subscription of us in CPA. 49,000 pounds. And when you translate it, it is 1.173 million rand. We have responded to the Hawks. They have also asked us further questions to provide further details around certain matters. But the case was opened in July 2024, and the issue happened in April 2024 in terms of the activities. So when we respond to the 2024-2025 annual report to this committee, we will further detail what are the further steps. What we can't deal with is the component of the criminal investigation by the Hawks. But on the internal accountability of Parliament, there's a report that will be produced at the end of the month, which the Governance and Assurance Committee is dealing with in respect of that matter. The issue around 140 million rand, in the last report, honorable members, we detailed it is not only about design. There's a lot of professional fees that we have paid that deal with DBSA managing contractors, and that is regulated in the agreement. All the finances are accountable for, which our finance department manages the disbursement that we do to the Development Bank of Southern Africa. But the project manager will be able to detail some of the responsibilities and interfaces which we are able to respond to, of which Auditor General accounts in terms of auditing both public works, both DBSA and Parliament of the Republic in line with the MOA. And the details of what has been paid, I will ask the project manager to deal with that part. The CFO will deal with all issues of adjustment, protective clothing increase, flowers and decoration, and HR head will deal with the payment of performance bonuses to employees, as disclosed in the report, payment of the annual cost of living to employees, as detailed in the report, as well as the prepayment to DBSA, which the CFO and project manager will respond. The issue of the issue of pension fund for employees disparities, the HRE would respond on that. And then on oversight model, Mr. Klaso will respond in terms of our oversight model and reinforce the points that have already been clarified. And where necessary, issues that pertain to law enforcement, and I think the head of security may respond if there is a necessity on any matter. I would like to keep it there, Chairperson, and the rest of the team that is here can pick up on any matter that I might have forgotten to respond on, starting with the CFO. Thanks.
Thank you, STP and chairpersons and members of the committee. The question on the receivables from non-exchange transactions, that one relates to employees and members get paid on the 15th. So when a member resigned after the 15th, they would have been paid for the whole month. So they would owe Parliament if you resign on the 17th. So you owe Parliament from the 18th until the 31st of March. So that would be a receivable, non-exchange transactions. That's what we refer there to. Also with the relocation costs, if you resign before you complete the period determined in terms of human capital policy, therefore you will owe the institution. That's what we refer there to, receivables, non-exchange transactions. Regarding the amount on payables of 2 million for DBSA disclosed there, that amount relates to invoices that we received after March. DBSA every month will submit the invoices for transactions they've incurred, would review them and include them in the accounting records. But there were transactions that were incurred in March, but they gave their documents to Parliament after March. So we had to accrue for those invoices as a payable to DBSA. When it comes to overtime, there was no significant increase the increase would have been related to salary increases because the values that employees would have been paid for in the 2023-24 were different from the prior year because of salary increases. Also, the performance bonus awards in the prior year, there was no provision in payment of performance bonuses compared to 2023-24, where performance bonus provision was made, hence the significant change there. What else? And also with the question on the travel expenses, who traveled what class, that information can be provided later. The report can be provided. However, when it comes to the international engagements, in the report of the accounting officer, he did detail all the trips and the engagement that happened that relates to the work of Parliament when he reported on the international engagements of the institution. So also when it comes to the flowers, would have been increased with the establishment of 7 Parliament and the BRICS engagements as well. Also moving from COVID, the Parliament business increased so as the activities. Also on the contractors, there's an element of DBSA where legal construction services were paid for. Expects. Thank you. Thank you. Also on the CPA one, we are verifying we strengthen the controls around international payments. Majority of the payments of Parliament are locally, which bank verifications has always been done for local payments. So when the invoice was received for CPA, it looks similar with the invoices of the prior years. However, investigation is still done, and the colleagues that were involved in the payment have gone to answer to the governance committee. The committee will conclude and recommend on their side. But in terms of the processes, we have strengthened the controls to ensure that for each payments we make, where there's change of banking details, we request the bank confirmation. And also we ask our colleagues who engage with the international organizations to call as well to confirm that they are speaking to the right person to ensure that we pay the correct body. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Project Manager. I'm not sure if there's any component we might have left on the work that has been paid for, the components, including the office's refurbishments.
Thank you, STP, and greetings to co-chairs and honorable members. In respect of the 140 million reported, it is not only on professional fees. You'll recall that when we started the project, we had to engage on determining safe access routes, which meant that the consultants had to go into the buildings as they were in an unsafe conditions and to determine the routes that would be proper for any person to enter those buildings. Out of the safe access routes, we managed to conduct asset verification, and asset verification meant that all movable assets that were left in the building, including heritage artifacts, had to be verified and also to be assessed in terms of the conditions. And the outcomes of that led to the impairment report that found way into the annual financial statements as reported by the AG. Further to that, there was rubble removal in the buildings, both the fire damaged buildings, including erection of the temporary roof on the old assembly to ensure that we protect the building itself from elements, rain and excessive wind. We also built 155 offices on 90 Plain Street on the 4th and the 5th floor, which members are currently using. And part of that was construction work, including payment of the professional fees relating to that work itself. Part of the 140 also paid for the professional fees for the National Assembly and the Old Assembly in terms of stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 being the pre-feasibility study in terms of construction, and also on stage 2, the concept and viability. There was extensive work that was done in that respect, which led up to a point of the concept being approved by members of parliament on the 19th of January at Emperor's Palace. So all those combined accounted for the money that we spent. And as the STP said, beyond that, obviously there was work that actually ensued beyond the end of March as the end of the financial year. But maybe one also has to indicate that in terms of the DBSA engagement, the DBSA is an implementing agent. It's a state-owned enterprise, and the engagement of the DBSA is different from engaging a contractor who works at a police station and being paid for actual work done. The prepayments that are referred to are transfers or tranche transfers to the DBSA based on the projections that they make. And the DBSA only pays for actual work out of their bank account, and they reconcile their bank account on a monthly basis and also account for the interest that they've earned. The issue of engagement of the agent is consistent with what Public Services Commission came about with. And in one of their reports in 2011, they saw the benefits of agentification in government. And the focus has always been that government has to remain as lean as possible and focus on engaging implementing agents who are agile and who can turn around faster and ensure that there's actual impact on the economy in terms of implementation of infrastructure project. And for that reason, the focus is that government should largely look at policy formulation and strategy and direct the implementing agents on the ground in terms of rollout of infrastructure. So it is not by mistake or any unusual arrangement that the DBSA is engaged. As Parliament does not have adequate resources to be able to engage or to roll out this project. And from a strategic point of view, it only makes sense that the DBSA is engaged consistent with the provisions of Public Services Commission, as they are the ones who came up with the concept of agentification. There was an issue about nominated subcontractors. Nominated subcontractors, in essence, are appointed because either they are specialists or there are circumstances that dictate that such subcontractors be appointed and not that they follow a competitive tender process. In this case, the DBSA did request for engagement of these nominated subcontractors because those were subcontractors that are working on Parliament precinct under the Department of Public Works project or program. There were standing maintenance subcontractors appointed under the Department of Public Works. And for that reason, they were screened. They knew the system very well. They were working on the HVAC system, for example, as part of the maintenance. They were working on the electrical. They were looking also on the fire management systems. And because they had learning curve experience and also having been cleared from a security screen point of view, and with the project having to be fast-tracked, the DBSA saw it fit to engage the same contractors that were under Public Works, who were appointed by Public Works through a competitive process for them to be on the panel of Public Works. So it could have been an arrangement of a transversal contract, but the DBSA elected to engage them directly, and they made a motivation to their executives. The only issue that the DBSA did not indicate in that motivation was a formal request for deviation. And this is what the AG is actually indicating. But then in terms of engagement of nominated subcontractors, it is allowed in terms of the supply chain, provided that you request for a deviation from the committee. The request that they made did not have the wording referred to as deviation, but the motivation as you read it, it actually meant exactly the same. So that process was followed, and therefore that's why it is not found at in terms of the outcomes of the audit. In respect of overbilling, there was no overbilling, and that was explained quite extensively in the management report. The consultants submitted the There are claims, and out of those claims that were submitted, those were market-related claims. In fact, they were even lower than the market. There was a demonstration that was performed, a calculation that was shown to the AG that if the gazetted fee scale was actually being used for calculation of those fees, it would have been 19 million more than what these consultants have charged. And because of the nature of the fast-track project, the consultants were claiming on a time-based fee scale, again, because the duration of the project was shorter. And when we did the calculation, it actually was evident and very clear that if we were using the gazetted fee scale, it would have been even more expensive. And therefore, it cannot be said that there was overbilling. Even if you make a comparison on the gazetted fee scale as calculated and still discount it by 50%, the actual fees that were paid on a time basis, paid to the consultants, are actually still cheaper, even if you apply a 50% discount on the calculation of the gazetted fee scale. And therefore, it's misplaced to say that there was overbilling if you see it in context. And that's why we were comfortable to demonstrate to the AG as to what it actually meant at the end of the day. And based on that comparative analysis, it actually made sense. The issue of Mazia, I think the DBSA will answer the issue of Mazia because they are the ones who actually appointed Mazia. They are the ones who went through a supply chain management process, but safe to say that they followed an open competitive bidding process and that the Mazia Construction was the most responsive contractor out of all the contractors that submitted their bids, and that their process was accepted at the steering committee meeting. I think the STP, I'll end at that level because on the issues of payments to the DBSA has to be paid for the services that they've rendered and for the actual work that was done by the contractors on the ground. Those contractors have to be paid for the services that they've rendered. Any payment, whether it's 2 million or whatever the case may be, is based on transactions that can be accounted for by our finance division. I think that covers it. Thanks, STP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkaka.
Thank you, STP, co-chairs, members of parliament. I want to cluster the human capital related questions and responses as follows. The first cluster will deal with vacancies and progress attached to those vacancies. There was a comment and question around the employee benefits, including the pension regimes that are available within the employee of parliament. The payment of bonuses, my colleague CFO has dealt with that, but safe to indicate that there are no outstanding payment of bonuses in this regard. The fourth cluster will be the role of advisors within parliament. And lastly, Chair, the whole overtime policy question that came up. To contextualize the vacancies of 17.6% as presented, we have about 203 unfunded posts. And these 203 unfunded posts is a result of financial constraints that we've experienced over the years. But safe to indicate that with the newly proposed budget, we have budgeted for these positions. Most of these positions are within the committees, which is the core business, as well as the languages. We can provide those details. The funded positions, there are about 129. There is an intentional and structured talent acquisition process that we are following. We have put in place a talent acquisition team that is fast-tracking and dealing with the closing of vacancies. As an example, between the periods of October 2024 and January this year, we closed about 45 positions as a result of that intervention of putting in place the talent acquisition team. The question around employee benefits, Honorable Van Rooyen. We have two regimes when it comes to pension schemes. One is the Government Employee Pension Fund Scheme, which is available to all employees. The second scheme that you referred to earlier, which is for parliamentary officers, briefly referred to as PSOP. It's an inherited scheme back in 1933. We have since capped that scheme in 2006. What it means is there are no new entrants that enters that scheme. We continue to manage the GAPF. Safe to indicate that in that PSOP scheme, we still have existing beneficiaries of about 160 odd employees. Over the years, we looked at how best we can harmonize, standardize the two schemes to ensure that there's issues of equality, issues of equity, and fairness. We were in constant review of some of those rules that are applicable to the PSOP scheme. Both schemes are administered by National Treasury. The issue of advisors, Chair, I think we received this question previously, and our response is consistent as follows, that there is a human resources policy that allows that whenever we deem necessary, as determined by operational requirements, the institution can source additional resources by means of following this talent acquisition policy. I think there could be some misconception in terms of the titles that are being used. They're not advisors as per se, but these are program managers. Example, the built environment. He is a program manager. He is not an advisor. They all have set targets, their job descriptions, they get evaluated, they get managed like any ordinary employees. I think the concept of the title of advisors is something that we're looking at. Lastly, let me conclude with the overtime policy. Yes, indeed, the overtime policy, it has to be reviewed. We've started that work to standardize the overtime policy to align with the prevailing Basic Conditions of Employment Act thresholds. As we speak, we're getting into consultation with organized labor on the 27th of May, which is next week. It's one of the policies that the institution will be tabling for consultation to ensure that it does not impact towards our wage bill. STP, I want to stand down here with my responses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. Is there any matter for Advocate Pindela?
Yes, no, thank you so much, and good evening, honorable members. I'll start with the issue of questions and indicate that the matter of the quality of replies to questions, certainly in the NA, has been referred to the subcommittee on the review of rules to look at how the matter could be handled. But in terms of delayed replies to questions or non-compliance in terms of the question timeframes, the presiding officers continue to engage the leader of government business on the matter. The second point relates to public participation. the member raised the issue of what happens to inputs. I guess what we can say here is that that would be the function of the members in the committee to decide what they do with inputs received during public engagements. But from the side of the administration, we are in the process of improving our practice note or SOP, standard operating procedure, to ensure that all the elements of public participation are undertaken properly, whether it is to inform, to consult, or to give feedback. So those are taken care of. So we are in the process as the administration is part of our current APP interventions to improve the SOP, the standard operating procedure. A matter was raised about petitions. We have a framework that was agreed to by the Joint Rules Committee towards the end of the 6th Parliament. And that framework is in the process of being rolled out. Tied to that is a automation of the system of petitions. And of course, we are aware that even automation itself has got certain limitations, but it's an attempt at improving the petition system. And the automation process, again, will be piloted in this performance period. Honorable Tlhakudi has responded on individual member oversight. The Speaker indeed has referred that to the subcommittee on the review of rules in the NA, and all the issue also of unannounced visits by committees, oversight visit by committees being attended to. House resolutions, the matter was raised at various fora, including at the State Capture Commission. In the current APP, House resolution is one of the key elements that will be monitored, where reports will be given in our reports, quarterly reports, and of course to this committee to improve executive responses to House resolutions, and is applicable to both houses, the NA and the NCOP. Committee on Executive Undertakings, Honorable Dagmore, you're correct. The NA is in the process of establishing this committee. It's executive undertakings and petitions. Now, why did we not have a petitions committee all along? The approach has always been that portfolio committees were best placed to follow through on matters that affect their portfolios. But a view has since emerged that having a dedicated capacity on the issue of petitions may be the best approach. So the subcommittee has since agreed, in fact, the Rules Committee has since agreed that this committee must be established, and it's a matter of the report going before the House for the House to establish the committee. The last point has to do with notices of motion. Honorable Mukalipi, you're right that motions are given weekly when the House is sitting, but there is a mechanism. It may not be adequate, and that mechanism is mini plenaries, where parties have opportunities to have their motions scheduled for consideration, for debate in the mini plenaries, and that has worked well so far. Thank you so much, Chairperson, co-chairpersons.
STP.
Thank you, Chairperson. I forgot one issue that I think Honorable Baden was to ask, and the CFO couldn't respond on the people in the disclosures that were found to be doing business with Parliament, what has happened and so on. And she will quickly clarify that.
Thank you, STP. Those conflict of interest were raised by the AG office when they were doing the audit. AG office have the access to the public service to extract the data and draw the exceptions to identify potential conflicts of interest. So when they give us the information, we have to verify on our side. So when they concluded the audit, we're still busy with the investigation. However, we can confirm now that we followed up all the cases. I think there were about 17 cases. Some of them, I think 5 of them, we identified that from the investigation and following up that we emailed the suppliers to ask for the information there. We didn't get the responses, so we suspended them from our database to doing business with those suppliers, 5 of them. Also, we followed up with the other suppliers and the departments, and then we found that about also 6 of the they were not in the service of the state. There were no conflicts identified. All the exceptions that were identified by AG, we followed up, and all of them are closed as we're speaking now. Also, internal audit did the audit to follow up and gave them all the supporting documents to confirm how we went about verifying the information. All the cases are closed. In our RFQ documents, we do request the declaration of the interest, and we do have a clause that if there is any false or incorrect information, Parliament reserves the rights to suspend transacting with the business and recover any losses that may have incurred by Parliament in that regard. However, in our space, we don't have proactive tool to have access to the public service like AGSA's office, where they've got access to identify the exceptions before transacting. We rely on the declaration and also when AG raise, we follow up to ensure that we don't transact with those, or we confirm the validity of the exceptions. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's any other employee manager who wants to raise any matter. So what we conclude.
Thank you, STP. Can I check with the speaker on the virtual platform? Honorable Speaker, can we rise all members?
Thank you very much, Chair and Co-Chair and honorable members. No, there is no further information that I would like to add more than what the officials have. Obviously, some of these matters where a detail is required, as the STP has indicated, will be provided. And some of the issues will have to be discussed by the Rules Committee as well as relevant structures, particularly on matters that had been raised by Honorable Mkalipi on the, how we do our oversight as members and where sometimes there are constraints in certain facilities where members of Parliament would like to have an oversight. And I think these are some of the matters that will have more engagement as either the rules or even the oversight model to say, how do we on one hand enable members to do their work while at the same time we're also conscious by issues that have been raised by said institution on some of the difficulties they have. Otherwise, Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, we have a commitment here that all contemporary and topical issues will not disappear from the radar of this Joint Standing Committee. We will continue to play our oversight. If there is any report that we need, we will accordingly communicate with the Office of the Speaker and the STP to make those reports available. We want to take this opportunity and thank all of you, the honorable members in this Joint Standing Committee, the Speaker and the Chair of the NCOP, the STP, and your staff. I see your hand is up, Honorable Swiss.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. Chair, I just need to clarify something. I'm fully aware of the policy that is being spoken about, the one of temporary resourcing human, that the response came from. I'm fully aware of that. My question is, it was said 2 years back, it's temporary. Are those people still here? If they are here, what was the agreement? Who approved it? I'm not aware of the consistent answer. This is a new matter to me. If I can get that clarity in writing, then I think I'll be satisfied. I'm fully aware of the legislation or the policy that the official was speaking about. My question is, it was 2 years back. It was said it's temporary. Are those people still here? And what are the reasons and who approved that? That's my question. Thank you, Chair.
Is it a difficult thing to respond to, STP? Honorable Van Rooyen.
Chair, maybe taking your instruction and obeying to that, I will make a detailed submission on these disparities in pension funds because our mandate here is to transform this institution. So this thing of pension funds, I think, is a very serious matter, and it needs a robust processing by us as a public representative. So I'll make a detailed presentation on it, but I will expect you to make a ruling because there was a specific request from honorable member that
Honorable Badenhorst.
yeah, can we, because I think the questions around employees' benefits falls under that category. So if we get a detailed report, that's where we'll then be able to apply our minds accordingly on this aspect, you know. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can we get the response?
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. On the issue of the response by the head of HR, it is not a difficult matter. The policy of Parliament provides for employment of temporary resources, and it regulates how the process must be done, and Parliament has adhered to that. Temporary meaning assignment-based. One example that he has used is for the rebuilding of Parliament. There's a project manager, and the first appointment was for a year, and thereafter the project is still continuing. So the project manager still implements the project until completed. The rest of other team, also the org review asked by Parliament to be done. There's a person implementing that project as a project manager. It has got specific timelines, and those timelines are available, and they are reported to the Joint Standing Committee. So people are tied to projects that have got a definitive timeline. Is it a first approach to Parliament to appoint people? No. For the period in the 6th Parliament before, employees have always been appointed using the same policy on assignment. Are some of those employees also still here? Yes. Not only those ones who are appointed recently. So it's a standard employment process on interventions of specific projects. So it is not an unusual project matter. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. If the honorable member is not satisfied with the response, the honorable member can point to specific areas that need clarity. Honorable Badenhorst, does your question concern me as the chair of the committee or any person from administration?
I think my question needs to be directed to the executive authority regarding that matter, and that's something we need to discuss with the executive authority, not with the staff.
Okay.
But while I've got the mic on, and I know it's late now, Honorable Chair, but we need to discuss whether the DBSA is an implementing agent or a procurement agent.
Okay.
So that's something that we need to flesh out at the future meeting,
we
please.
should do, Honorable Badenhorst, is that next time when we meet, maybe before we bring in the officials, we will have that session with the speaker. Yeah, the matter of the DBSA in relation to the restoration project will be discussed the day we receive that presentation. We must not make it a territorial battle. It must not be a tough war. What we need to do, let's come and get the report. Yes, look, let's get the report. And then, look, each and every function follows the strategy. The strategy here is to have that project completed. That must be the strategic objective. So, but the day we meet, as your request, we will get that session with the speaker and iron out every matter that will be needing her attention. Thank you so much, Co-Chair.
Through you, Chair, maybe before the co-chair.
Uh, just a moment, just a moment, Honorable Speaker. I have two honorable members who want to speak. Honorable Van Rooyen and Honorable Mkhalip.
Chair, you know, as much as I'm sympathetic to the submission of honorable members on this thing of the relationship between Parliament and DBSA, the real of the matter is that the AG, that's why I was specific when I asked the AG, what is the issue about this relationship? And the AG said nothing's wrong. I hope that yet the AG, when he confirmed that nothing is wrong. But they can also go into the AG's report just to verify if there's anything wrong about this relationship. You know, I'm raising this thing, Chair, because you make a very good summary when you said the objective here is to get the project delivered. Because we're empowering private sector here at the expense of the taxpayers, contribution. You know, we need to get this project done so as the status quo, I mean, is somehow prevails, you know. And I'm sorry, you know, now we are going to the third budget, you are aware. Because I think it's all because people are bringing their coalition battles on wrong platforms. And I don't think we should allow that to happen in this committee. They must fight their battles at the platform that they've created, dubious as those platforms are. They mustn't bring their
So
battles.
you speak about the coalition of the DBSA.
Yes, because you can, I mean, Honorable Dagmar made it very, very clear that here people are fighting. Now, all of a sudden, now we must entertain the project going to DBSA or DPSA because who is the Minister of Public Works? No. We're not interested, as members of Parliament, we're not interested in those battles. Our mission and assignment here, which we are going to execute at all costs successfully, is to see this project completed. I'm just saying, I hope this is not driven by those battles that made us to have the third version of the budget. So we don't want that to permeate to this, committee's work. Thank you.
That's why I ruled out, Honorable Member, that let's do the work in such a way that there are no territorial battles. Honorable Mkhalip.
I think, Chair, Honorable Doris tried to clarify some of the issues. We also sit in the Chiefs Forum, and we understand very well that other members does not sit in that platform. So I thought the Speaker will come and clarify this issue between the Public Works and the Parliament. But according to the program here, I read it somewhere, the Parliament needs to to give us updates is due in June in terms of how far with the rebuilding of Parliament. They did brief us before, and the next date is in June, in regard to the project, according to my understanding. But because now the matters from the Chiefs Forum are brought here, maybe the Speaker will come because we have resolved in a Chiefs Forum that, as the STP was saying, according to my understanding as Parliament, we have written a letter to the Public Works, give us a bank account, want to pay what we have agreed upon. So when this thing was brought to us in the Chiefs Forum, we said as a Chiefs Forum, the Speaker must ensure to facilitate a meeting between Public Works and Parliament. As the member is also saying that we are not interested in their fight. They are very old, the STP and the DG of Public Works. But now it needs a Speaker to sit down with them to say, where is the gap of the working relationship between the two of you? I think why the Speaker wants to get in, because we can see that there is a turf war and we are not children. We can see what is
Yeah.
happening here.
Yeah.
But here, because we are members of parliament and you are not kids, we are not going to enter. The only thing that needs to happen, the speaker must also facilitate and we can proceed because Tina, we want to know what is happening in terms of the rebuilding. Secondly, I agree with my colleague. The AG is there, said there's nothing wrong in terms of what it has been audited. So we can't reopen the audit now as members of parliament unless the AG said, no, there is something wrong, then the parliament must account. But I don't think it's correct to start the audit of the AG while the AG said, no, according to their audit, all is well and good. Only we have to interact with the presentation from parliament now to say, according to your presentation, as we were doing, your program too speaks about the oversight. Tina, we think that you can do better in terms of the oversight and all other issues, but not this one, that this direction that you want to take is not going to get us somewhere. The Minister of Public Works came to the Chiefs Forum, said in his opening remarks, rightfully or wrongfully, I handed over the project to Parliament. We even interacted with him to say, we are telling us that is rightfully or wrongfully, but at the end of the day, we are saying that the Parliament is not giving you a report. So you can't be handing over without telling us the reasons as members of parliament. Why did you hand over the project? Now we are coming and crying to us to say the same parliament does not want to give an updated report. So you must tell us firstly, why did you take that decision? Then we decided on the Chiefs Forum, please bring the steering committee, which the DPSA will be there to the Chiefs Forum. I think on our next meeting, we're expecting that. And then get the gap between this platform and the Chiefs Forum, the speaker must also chart a way forward. I think I need to clarify some of the issues, Chair, like that. Thanks.
Cameron, Honorable Cameron.
No, thank you, Chair. I don't want to respond to that because I think it's clear what the role of this committee is and the need for us to keep all of our leadership briefed. I'm not disputing what Honorable Kalipi is saying, but I think we need to take guidance from the Chief Whip. I think it's actually the 24th of June where this matter comes before this committee, the Reconstruction of Parliament. But my point was, Chair, I'm not sure if you've summarized yet because I'm on the point of questions which have been raised and not necessarily responded to. Now, I heard one of the honorable members ask a question about salaries, and I'm sure as the chairs, you're going to deal with that issue. But all I want to suggest is that if there's going to be such a meeting, we request that the Auditor General needs to be in that meeting as well.
To discuss salaries. No. Okay, let me take a representative from the AG. There is a hand raised there.
100% Chair. No, thank you so much, Chair, through you. I just wanted to put on the table because one of the members did read from the management report and referred to pages of some findings that we had on the infrastructure. So maybe I just wanted to close the point so there's clarity. So at that point in time when we were raising the findings with Parliament, it was not raised with DBSA as yet. So that process, Chairperson, is still ongoing and the audit is ongoing. So there could be, there's matters that we've raised that we're still waiting for final responses from DBSA. I thought that we just put it on the table, nothing for Parliament's account, but more from a DBSA's perspective that we are raised, but we are busy with the audit process currently. I thought let me just close it in that way, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. On the matters that have been raised by Honorable Berenholz, we would request that maybe through you, Chair, he indicates exactly what it is that we need to respond to as executive authority. Bearing in mind that some of the issues, as you said earlier, are historical. So certain decisions were taken in a particular year, which arise partly in this report, which is 23-24. So I think it would help us in preparation for the next meeting when you want us as executive authority to respond to those matters. On the issue raised by Honorable Mkalipi, I did not, saw it fit maybe to respond in this meeting on the matters that were raised in the Chief Whips Forum, because we are responding on those matters in that forum where certain questions were asked and where the speaker was asked to facilitate. If you'll agree with me, Chair, that maybe I don't deal with those matters in this forum. Thank you very much.
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much. Honorable members, I have already thanked you for your participation in this committee, the Office of the Auditor General, the STP, and your retinue. Thank you so much. We have come to the end of the meeting. Co-Chair, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chief Whips Forum.